A bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up.
Once again, here we are. This is Team Rabbit Hole Edition 296 with Julia Kamman, remotely. Remote viewers, speakers, Southern Californian, Libra. Join the team as we get to know Julia and hear about her story, gifts, and insights. Cue Italian engine revving noises. Welcome and well met, Julia.
Oh, it's so awesome to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm actually impressed that you guys were in the chat saying, "Here's a link and share it like at like T-minus 5 seconds to like live." So I was like, "Good luck if you can multitask."
Well,
I'm
this
not
is
gonna
when the
do that.
live link is created, so here we go.
Touche. And that was kind of I saw your pictures of being at the Lamborghini thing, so that's an allusion to that, Avi. Julia, what up? So we do stuff here on the podcast. I'm a little scattered at the moment. This is episode number 296 that reduces down to 8 numerologically, which is the strength card. I face my fears with the strength of love and patience. Strength is about trusting yourself, letting your inner endurance shine, using your power to embrace the amazing person within. You have everything within you to succeed. Raphael, what card you got?
I always feel like tripping over these cards. This is a very interesting card. This is the Five of Swords, which actually is called the Lord of Defeat. Attributions are conflict. Of course, this is always the Crowleyan attribution, so this goes a bit into the negative, but it doesn't mean it's one-sided.
He was a Libra.
Conflict, cruelty, belligerence, loss, defeat, unfavorable outcome, mourning, sadness, affliction, infamy, dishonor. The astrological attributions are Venus and Aquarius. What I like about this card is what is defeat, and once, I was talking about this to a friend. We were like musing on this idea, and this card, because always when you do tarot a lot, the same cards keep coming up, right? And we're like, this is your card. What does it mean? Lord of Defeat. What does defeat mean? It's like Niederlage in German, which means to lay down. And then the question is, how much can you actually succeed by allowing yourself to be defeated, by allowing yourself to rest, in a sense. Yeah. So this is one of the ways I like to turn this card around, but yeah. Just a few tidbits.
So between the strength card, which is seemingly paradoxical to that defeat thing, with the Five of Swords, at least in the Starman Tarot deck, there's an image of a guy kind of like about to lop off a dude's head, and he's kind of like, you have a moment of pause to really kind of not, basically between any defeat or victory, you have a moment to kind of think about what you're doing. Like Peter didn't have to chop off an ear. He had a moment where he's like, I don't know, man, I guess I could do this. Anyway, between that strength card and the Five of Swords, I guess it is there anything resonating for you, Julia? If not, that's okay.
Well, I think, the strength card of like persevering, of, pulling through, persevering. Plus, I got Mars and Leo. So
Let's look at your chart. We can get into it. You got Mars and Leo, your actions are strength. And it's funny because you do have your Chiron and Taurus, and which I wanted to get into at some point, which is your wound and fifth house kind of Taurus, which is like the heart of your material reality. So I don't know anything about you, but you come apparently from a dynasty of a bakery or something, and it seems maybe that shadow kind of sometimes prevents you from shining as yourself because you're like attached to the kind of the ball and chain of the Taurus, like the material stuff, the value.
Right. Yes. Oh my gosh. My first clairaudient message when I was like 8 years old, I walked into like my mom was in her closet. It was like a walk-in closet, and my first clairaudient message was like, "You see, Julia, money doesn't make you happy." Like,
Holy shit.
she was crying, and her head was in her hands, and it was like all the jewels, all these clothes, like none of this can get her from crying, like stop crying, like material, like it was a theme that kept popping up in my life. And then it kind of created like some financial blockages within myself, because like I wasn't exposed to people who got a lot of money and like were like ethical or spiritual. Like I saw like how destructive it could be. So
Well, we won't send this one to your mom for a Christmas card, I guess. It's like opening statements. My mom was miserable on the floor with her diamonds. But anyway, we'll get into this stuff. So basically, I'm only aware of you largely, I think only probably solely. I added you after maybe Andreas, who is AKA Exertus, for those of you who don't know. I think he was like, you need to have her on, or she's cool, or maybe you did something with him. And I was like, she's cool. I forget exactly how it went down, but added you. We've been kind of back and forth for a while, and here you are. But largely speaking, I am very peripherally aware of you. It's not like I'm sitting there. I mean, I didn't even realize you had a YouTube. I went to it a minute ago, or, before this to get the link, and you have a video on, like, I guess the magical kind of necessity of cerebrospinal fluid stuff, which is funny because that's kind of a conduit through which I might have had a clairaudient message back in the day, which we'll get into at some point. But you've got a lot of kind of hands in different pies, so to speak. You're doing the Southern California kind of uh, typical thing in a good way, I guess. I just saw on Facebook you were at a Lamborghini kind of expo and doing kind of the ritzier stuff, but at the same time, you're a remote viewer. You're a speaker at alien conventions, it looked like,
mhm.
just all sorts of stuff. So we will get to what you're up to now, but I'm very curious kind of your story, and you did kind of allude to some stuff as a kid, but give us the breakdown. What was your culture like? What was your family like? What are the things that formulated your little fragile eggshell mind, and how did you get to where you are now, basically?
My great grandfather had an olive oil farm. He had one of the first olive oil presses in California. And my family is like my father's side is Sicilian, and they had a bakery and a restaurant. And he actually, if you've ever gone to Olive Garden and had the breadsticks,
Oh
like
yeah, that's
my father was, behind developing that. And if you've ever had, like, a sourdough bread bowl at Disneyland, they don't do it there anymore, but, that was my dad's bread,
that's crazy.
So, yeah. So it's a bakery. So my family was, like, workaholics, like,
Hmm.
they would work, like, manual labor, like, literally, like, addicted to working really, really hard,
But it sounds
like
like it's the American dream kind of thing. Like they came over from Italy or whatever and made it work.
yeah. So I was raised in that type of mentality of like you got to work really hard. And my dad was also like he got scouted to like sports is really big in my family. My
Hmm.
father was they were like recruiting him at 17, the Yankees and the Angels, and was like you had to choose one, and then he had to make a decision if he wanted to play professional baseball, or his parents basically offered all their children like, "Look, we'll give you each this amount of money." It might have been 10 grand, I forget, but and you guys could each start your own bakery or business, or you could all do it together.
Hmm.
And so, my father had to choose between professional baseball and, the bread business, and he chose the bread business.
What position did he play?
Shortstop. And
Okay,
he
that's
yeah,
fun.
so, like, sports was huge in my childhood. Like, I played softball, I was on a junior Olympic team. I was a really fast, sprinter. I was a
Hmm.
fast runner, like, they would put me in, gosh, they would put me into, like, steal bases and stuff, like, it was always high pressure, like, they would put me in to run for other girls. I'm like, "I don't know why I'm looking at the third base coach for the signals because it's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
be, like, steal every time." So, it was always these high pressure situations where everyone knows, like, you have to steal. And
There's not
so,
much hidden in that situation. You're not pressing the card, so to speak. It's like she's probably gonna go at some point, kind of thing.
right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sports was big, bread was big, big like, Italian get-togethers and everything, and I was
Are
the
you the
youngest.
oldest sibling? Oh, there you go.
No,
You caught
I
me
was
on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was the youngest of 4,
Word.
and yeah.
I've heard the youngest is the goofiest. I'm the oldest of 4.
Oh,
So now
lucky.
that I see that you're the youngest, I'm like, okay, Emily, you're my Emily equivalent. That's my sister. Shout out. So I mean, I'm looking at your chart a little. You do have your Mars in Leo, 8th house. I mean, I guess when it's clutch, it's time to make actions that are power moves. Like you're a power moves kind of chick, and you do it from the heart. So you probably did love stealing bases, and they're like, she's fucking good at this shit. Make her do it. All right, so you're the youngest. You're coming from kind of a dynasty of bread. I don't recall. I haven't been into Olive Garden in a long time. I remember my dad's dad. He was 53 when he died, which is fucking young. But we went to Olive Garden in like 93 kind of thing, and he ordered a burger. It's like I don't even know how that's possible. But the bread, don't ask. I don't. It's like I used to like it. I mean, as a kid, kind of like fettuccine Alfredo was dope and all this stuff. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm not Italian, but I mean, I think it's kind of like the McDonald's of Italian food, right? It's kind of like that. Not hating, just saying. The
Their
bread,
five
I always
cheese baked ziti is it's
oh,
pretty
okay, it's
amazing.
crushing it. See, I'm not hating. I don't know. I don't have a horse in that race. It's been
And
a hot
everyone
minute
likes
since
to
I've thought
dip
about it.
the breadstick into the salad dressing.
That's the move, always. Do you think? I mean, this is random, but those are rather doughy breadsticks. Are they supposed to be that Brody? I think of like ciabatta or something like that. Uh,
Rustic, you like the
yeah,
hard
more
crust and the
heart
soft.
like. What's your theory? I mean, is there no patent pending kind of family secrets, but is it a matter of just like mass production? It's easier to do that way, or is there a reason that they're a little softer? Beyond, I mean, if not, that's okay too. I don't know. Just poking your brain
Of
on the bread.
of how like of why it was formulated to be like a little bit par baked. It is kind of like par baked, huh?
I mean, it's fine. It's doughier is the best way I could put it.
It
Not
is
doughy, but it's
doughier,
like softer.
yeah.
So
But
is it sourdough?
no, it's not. It's not sourdough. But I don't know. That's a good
That's okay.
question.
Now you feel so bad because like your Saturn is conjunct your Sun. So I asked you a question. You're like, I don't know. I need to go
Oh
wear
my
the
god, I
dunce
don't
cap.
know.
Yeah, it's like don't sweat it. We should ask fucking the angels or something. Maybe they'll tell us. But anyway, all right, you can keep ripping on. So you grew up in where exactly? Southern California.
Yeah, I grew up in Laguna Hills,
Word,
and yeah, I grew up
like
in
the
Laguna
show
Hills.
from MTV kind of thing. Have I seen your beach? The Laguna Beach. Is that
There
right?
was actually like in Laguna Hills, I was like in the hills there, like there's Laguna Beach and then there's Laguna Hills. And it was actually an equestrian like neighborhood where
Culture.
they have like
Okay.
horse trails and stuff and we would jump bikes and build ramps and stuff.
Hell yeah. All right. So you were growing up. I haven't really fucked with Southern Cal much. I've been to San Diego and LA a few times, but I mean, I'm not like going up and actually when COVID popped, I was stuck in West Hollywood, but that's whatever. It's not quite Laguna because I think where you are is between, or growing up was between San Diego and LA, right? Isn't that
Yes,
orange?
yes.
Yeah.
In the
See, I'm
center.
just adult on this. I'm like, I don't know. I just know Leo King is around there somewhere. All right, so I mean, I'm always kind of glancing at your chart. Your Sun is conjunct Jupiter, but your Saturn is exactly conjunct your Sun by 1 degree in Libra at 10th house. It's not surprising that you're part of like a beautiful, chic kind of in crowd materially. Moon and Capricorn. I'm not going to say you were destined for this, but it's just like uh, it's positioned in such a way that uh, the nice things are going to be around you, so to speak. So that's cool. All right. So tell us a little about, I mean, when you were growing up, you said you were in your mom's closet, you were hearing clairaudient stuff. When did you start kind of getting the shine, or how did you even express that to your family, if at
I
all?
would always like I would have visions and I took it as, you know, that I thought I wanted to be like a cinematographer or director or
It's
like
my creative
something to do
spark.
with film because I would see it as like scenes.
Hmm.
And so I thought I wanted to like something to do with film or writing or acting or directing. But I always say I wish like a shaman would have came into my life at 14 to be like, hey, this is what you do. Because then it got to a point where it scared me and I ran from my gift. I ran from that ability because I didn't know what to do with it. It seems like when you talk or tell people about this stuff, it's like you're deemed crazy or schizophrenic
Hmm.
or not knowing what to do with that or like a understanding of like, okay, what do I do?
You're like having visions, and your mom's like, "Shut up, eat the bread," or whatever. Run to third base. So, what were some of these visions? I mean, I'll look at your chart for a second, but given your Mars is in 8th house, it's like, where's your Mercury? I can't find it. Okay, so Mercury's in
Mercury's in
Scorpio. Your
Scorpio.
Mercury's, yeah. It's like, of course, you're psychic. Like, and it's conjunct your Uranus. And your Venus, no, that's your Venus. Sorry, your Venus is conjunct Uranus exactly in 11th house. So, I mean, you're supposed to be doing weird things on not the internet. That's a weird way to put it, but through technology. So, like going to check out Lambos, like your name in neon lights, do this stuff. It's of course
The
you'll
reason
love
why I
that.
like Lambo, I don't even think like come across super pretentious. Like I like
No,
Lamborghinis because of
they're cool.
the
That's
sound that it
the
makes,
engine
and it's
revving
not even going to be that sound much longer because they're
because of
changing it.
e-cars.
Yeah,
Or
I'm so sad. I won't like Lamborghinis if they don't sound because it's literally sound. So
and you've
yeah, that
driven
makes me
them, which
sad.
is dope. I mean, you were driving one, right? Am I
It's
tripping?
like an Italian's wet dream. Like,
Pretty
oh, I want
much.
to go.
When I was a kid, I think it was the Countach and the Diablo. Diablo Lamborghinis. There were, I mean, whatever. I'm, a little younger than you by 3 or 4 years, but like in fifth grade, probably when you were in ninth grade, that shit was like maybe even earlier, probably third grade. Kids were getting little models and making cars and stuff. And I am not a gearhead. I don't even know how to drive manual to this day or change a tire. I'm just not a gearhead. Though I've seen Top Gear a bunch, so I get it. I get the culture. You seem like, I don't know how much of a gearhead you are, but you sure seemed happy. And you're talking about the sound. Were you into cars as a kid or growing up? Or
What got me to pay attention is my dad. My dad had a Ferrari and he had a Porsche, so I always knew it got me to pay attention to the sounds because I knew when he was, like, a few miles away because I could hear it. So it got
Mm,
me to pay attention to sound engines, and then it was like a game that I never talk about or ever told anyone about that I would play, like, when I hear a car, I try to guess
what
what
it
car
is?
it is, like, by the sound.
That's
It's
cool.
like a stupid game I've played, like, my whole
No.
life
Dude, what do you
of,
think all
like
monkeys do with life? We're language-based pattern recognizing things. So it's like, yeah. Here, to make you feel better, how your name says Julia. As a kid, I would drive by signs and stuff and be like, Julia, Kamman, Ulia Kamman, Leah Kamman, Ia Kamman. I would just start like deducting things and saying how, like, if it made any sense and just deconstructing language. So don't feel weird about hearing cars. I mean, that is rather odd in a sense, but at the same time, not terribly surprising given your culture and the effect it has on your sensitivities, so to speak. So the bakery was doing well. Your dad has these cars and comes home with the sounds. I mean, I'm interrupting you constantly, but I kind of just want to get a picture. It seems like you had a pretty good situation. What were maybe the parts of you that, I mean, were you spiritually aware and just like, holy shit, I'm having visions and no one's going to get this kind of uh you stranger in a strange land mode? Obviously you didn't know who to talk to. You were saying in the green room that your parents took you to the Pope or some shit, so it's
oh
like
my
they were
gosh.
Catholic Italians, it seems.
Yeah, so, my mom grew up, like, going to Catholic school, and her sister had the calling, like, what the call of, like, she wanted to be a nun,
Be a nun,
and
yeah.
yeah, so but she didn't become one, but they were like, my mother's father was very religious, and he was in the Knights of Columbus, but
Okay.
he was very religious, and basically my God, it's the weirdest story, but yeah, I was 6 years old, and I was at the Vatican, and I remember being in the catacombs, and I was enthralled with it. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, when you get, like, something that like, sparks, like, a joy in you? Like, I
Yes.
was looking at all these different bodies, and I was like, "Nobody talks about this," and I wanted to keep going under. I wanted to go deeper underground, which
Guys,
is very
that is
symbolic.
Mars Leo in 8th house, and this is her Venus in Scorpio conjunct Uranus. She's like, I love death and going into the secret tombs. I'm
Yeah,
using a
I was
weird
like,
way.
and I
Yeah.
didn't, and they were like, "Julia, come on." Like, no, like nobody wanted to be down there. They weren't comfortable with it. And I wanted to go deeper. And so I'm with my brother and my sisters and my aunt and my mother. And we were given like the most, like, we were taken to the Pope's corridors, and we had this guide who, his name was Salvatorio, and he took us into these like secret passageways, like places like people don't go.
Shout
And
out
then like,
Salvatorio.
right?
VIP tour.
Seriously, he was amazing too, like, the way, like, imagine, I don't know, it's like, imagine an angel guide with, like, underworld ties, but, like, knows how to do everything right, like, when he would take you to a restaurant, it was, like, the best of it. You walked in, you're like, "Is this guy, like, who is this powerful guy?" Like, just, and he just was so charismatic, and he was the ultimate, and
Sounds like
so
Mercury
he
going between heaven and hell and earth or whatever. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, it's like a Janus figure. So, he brought us, into the room of, like, where the Pope goes on the balcony and waves?
Mhm.
Like, brought us in there, and my aunt almost fainted, and then the Pope is in the room, and there's, like, this sheer curtain, and he's sitting at a desk, and he's reading, And I was like, "Dude, is this is for real? Like, is he, like, reading the Bible? Like, what's going on here?" And there's all these guards and, like, it looks like gesture outfits and stuff. And
Vatican guard, yeah,
yeah,
Swiss
and
guard.
so that was always very mysterious to me of like, "What the heck? How does it," like, so that's always something that's, like, kinda struck me was, I was 6, brought in there. It's just very interesting, but maybe one
I'm
day
not
I'll
terribly
know.
surprised. I said earlier, you're gonna be moving and shaking in, like, high circles at a level always, like, just Jupiter conjunct your sun in 10th house, Libra. It's like the finer things in life. They express themselves to you. I've been to Rome for 2 weeks. I lived in Europe for a year in Switzerland, and I went to Amsterdam for a week. I went, basically I had 2 weeks in September, and I was like, "I'm gonna go to Italy and eat acid on the Appian Way." I did not do that. But, basically, I went to the Vatican after, like, a long train ride. I mean, I'm weird. I stayed at the train station of Rome. It was like 3 a.m. when I got there. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna stay here with these homeless kids," and they were just like parkouring and doing weird shit. And anyway, I wake up. I didn't really get sleep because I'm like, "Are these kids gonna like stab me?" I go to the Vatican in the morning and I'm kind of like groggy, and I sat in, I guess it's St. Paul's Square, the Vesica Pisces behind you. It's kind of doing that kind of situation, actually, ironically. Um, and
Yeah,
like an
in the
obelisk
Vatican,
and
in
all
the
this shit.
courtyard. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
talking about in the courtyard of the
yeah, yeah.
Vatican. There's so much, dude, there's so much
Well,
revealing in that, like, and
so I've
yeah.
I've never had my crown chakra rip. I mean, I'm not all about this, but basically, and I want to talk about you, not me. So we'll get back to your stuff. But basically, I sat down. I'm like kind of sitting there on the left side of that kind of circle, facing where the Pope comes out and all those statues or whatever, like facing the Vatican. And I'm not kidding. I was like, I don't even care about aliens or believe in them necessarily or anything. I'll play with ideas, but I'm not like, oh my god, there's a UFO underneath me. It felt like some spiritual technology or some weird shit. I was getting activated. My crown chakra was like, and I was just sitting there like buzzing, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I was sober as a clam. So that's my little story about the Vatican. Because when you said
Tim,
you
I
saw the
love
Pope,
that. No, I love that because a lot of people don't see that there is the Vesica Pisces in the Vatican Square right there. Not only that, but an 8-pointed star. So you're talking about like Inanna
hmm,
and pulling in that energy with the obelisk.
hmm,
So that
it's the
like
Isis
those are my
Horus kind
favorite
of
things.
sky fucking or whatever's going on there. Yeah, no, well, Secrets in Plain Sight. If people haven't ever seen that movie, I think it's a movie. We had the guy Scott Onstadt, I believe. He was into that. It's been a long time since I thought about that, but yeah, there's all sorts of weird shit going down in the esoteric kind of occulted reality that is human history or whatever you're going to call it. All right, so yeah, when you were in the green room and you were saying that you had met the Pope for some reason, I was thinking it was kind of like like when he gets in the Pope mobile and maybe he was visiting SoCal. Like that's what my mind thought. I was like, you're like, I saw him in like I don't know, like the back of the Olive Garden or whatever. I don't know what I
Oh,
was
it's interesting.
thinking. I
My
did not
parents
think
don't
you were
even
in
know.
Rome.
Like my parents don't even. I'm like, how did you guys meet Salvatore? Nobody can
Sure,
tell me. Nobody can tell me. I'm like,
that's
this
that's kind
guy
of
just
sus,
like
but that's also
appeared.
very cool. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
it's like Men in Black. They've been mind swiped or whatever. All right. So, what kind of sports were you into? I mean, we'll progress quicker, but I'm just trying to get a snapshot. You're the youngest kid. You played some baseball. Did you do dance? Did you do like shooting guns? Like, what are you doing? Probably not shooting guns. Equestrianism.
No, I will, dude. Shooting guns. We'll come back to that. That's how I
Okay.
became a king. That's how I became a king's girl was because I was in a Call of Duty clan and one like I
Like the
was the
game.
only yeah I was
Okay.
the only girl on the team and Dustin Brown, he was the captain of the LA Kings.
Mm.
He was on my team.
Which is hockey, just for the people who aren't
Yeah,
aware, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. He was on my Call of Duty clan. I think when I would do Call of Duty, I like his I would tell like there was all these guys on my team, and I think that I was like using remote viewing skills. They're like, Julia always knows where the other team's gonna be.
Ah.
Like, so I would strategize and be like, okay, this is where we're gonna go because we would play clan matches. And
Mm.
like I took it very we all took it very seriously. But he's been with his wife since he was like 14 or 15. And him, his wife, and his brother-in-law, like, he threw out the first pitch at Dodger Stadium, and they invited me, and they were like the wife was like, "You need to be a King's girl," and I was like, "An ice girl?" I was like, "What? I am a nice girl." She's like, "No, an ice girl," and I was like, "Oh, dude, I grew up in Southern California. I don't know how to skate," you know?
Is this like
So,
the LA Lakers equivalent of ice on
yes.
ice? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so, yeah, so I ended up becoming like I tried out and, I ended up becoming a King's girl, and that's how that happened, was
All right,
shooting.
that's way ahead in your story. I guess we'll fuck around with opportunities that come up. I try to keep it sequential, but we can hop around. Don't feel bad. But I'm like,
Okay.
I know that you were fucking Britney Spears is double or some shit. That's one of the things that I don't know exactly. Dance double or something. We'll get to that.
I'll let you like go there chronologically.
All
You
right,
can
I
guide
don't know
me.
where that is in your story, but I'm imagining you weren't like 10 years old doing the King's Girl thing. So growing up, what were your favorite subjects in school? Like, were you like, oh my god, I love writing. I hate school. Fuck all this. I wish I
Oh,
was a witch.
writing. Absolutely. Like poetry is very easy to me, and I thought everybody could do it. Like
Mm.
poems I love poems. I always had an advanced vocabulary. Um, like
Like
science.
Sylvia Plath kind of poetry. Like, what kind of stuff are you into?
I was published. I was like published on. I could like post and stuff, but like I liked writing poetry, and
Okay,
I
not so
liked
much
doing
reading it.
yeah, like I liked doing creative writing and creating stories,
Mm,
and yeah, like writing was I loved it. And then I loved history. I wanted more ancient history. And when we got into Egypt in like 6th grade, I lied to my dad. I was like, "Oh, I really wanted this Queen Nefertiti statue." So I lied and said like that was the assignment. And like my Nona wasn't really going for it. My Nona is amazing. She was a Gemini.
word.
She was like she was like on to me, and I ended up telling her. She laughed so hard that she started crying tears because I
Crying
was like,
breadstick tears.
yeah. And
Okay.
so, yeah, olive oil tears. And so,
She's the Mary Virgin. Tell the Pope quick, or whatever's going on there.
so, I lied to my dad and said I needed to create the Queen Nefertiti statue. So we went and like got clay. Like I had never sculpted anything in my life, neither have they, but literally recreated the Queen Nefertiti statue. And my Nona, I had to tell her like, "Yeah, no, it wasn't really an assignment. I just wanted it, Nona." And that's when she started crying, laughing. But Egypt seemed to really like ignite something within me. And my sister, like, I would never do the DNA testing, but my one sister did, and Coptic Egyptian came up, which is very fascinating because, well, first of all, isn't it like, the earliest form of Christianity? But Coptic
Mm,
Egyptians were less than 10% of the population, or less than 5% of the population 5,000 years ago.
hmm.
So it's interesting, the things that ignite us that are within us, that are
I'm
like,
not surprised. I mean, given like I said, you have Uranus and what is it, Mercury, Venus in 11th house, which is like Aquarian flavored Scorpio. So it's like whatever Egypt is a mystery of technological savvy and just so weird and punctuated in history. I mean, that's possibly debatable. I know Raphael is. I can't speak for him, Raphael. If you want to jump in about your Egypt theories, whatever Egypt is, symbolically, metaphorically, or otherwise, it's one of the weirder. I don't know. It's almost like the bearded woman of the ontological stage or something. It's like it doesn't fit like everything else. Hieroglyphics compared to the other language and stuff. It's just crazy. So, I'm totally spacing. I was going to ask you a question, but it doesn't matter. So, kind of what did you go to college?
for a little bit. I went for a couple years,
I
and
dropped
then,
out. Don't feel bad. Like 6
yeah,
colleges.
I
Don't feel bad.
didn't I didn't finish college.
What was your major? What was your attempt?
I wanted to English lit.
Hmm. Well, it doesn't surprise. I mean, your sun is conjunct Saturn, so it's like I think you see the structure of things very readily. So it's like if you know what I mean, haikus are cool. So if you just know it's like 565 or 575, you just kind of think in haiku. That's almost kind of how you roll. Like you've got a grid patterning overlaying how you are. Um, But I guess the shadow, I mean, with Saturn conjunct your sun exactly in 10th house, you can don't beat yourself up. You don't be you're your worst enemy. I know
Oh,
this. It's like, yeah,
guilty,
nobody's hating you
guilty.
like you hate yourself. Or you don't hate yourself, but my God, you kind of like, I'm not gonna fucking do what I love because I misspelled a word or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh. But you're also really good with time, surprisingly, and maybe karma, like probably good karma. Anyway, I'm just always glancing at your chart, kind of looking at it. Capricorn moons, they can be kind of emotionally constipated, but you seem
Dude,
pretty
I
chill.
that's my most it is dude, Capricorn moon is what I'm most thankful for. Like almost every single day, I'm grateful for my Capricorn moon because it keeps me logical. I think I
Hmm,
would fly away. Like I think I'd get carried out. Like I'd be in another realm all the time. Like I feel
sure.
like it grounds me and makes me like I feel like Capricorn moons is very like you feel something. It's like, what am I gonna get from it's very business like with your emotions. So it's like,
What's the
if
bottom
I keep
line? No bullshit. It's
Right,
like
yeah.
I don't know fluff. I just want to get to the bottom line. My moon's in 10th house, so I get it. I mean, flavored that way. It's a Gemini moon. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off. I am notoriously bad at interrupting people, so don't take it personally. You're probably sitting there going, "God damn it." It's all good, and we're both thirsty. Good job. So I guess we got about to college. You wanted to do English lit. Why'd you drop out?
Why? I don't know, like, what just school in general, I've never vibed with it at all.
Really?
Yeah, at
But you like
all.
learning,
I love learning. I just
just
don't
not
I've
the
never
structured.
liked the curriculum. I've always wanted to seek elsewhere. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've never vibed with the information, ever.
It happens. I mean, we're at a kind of a turning point in the academics and stuff where, especially back in the day, I think they were just trying to keep us like sitting still in chairs and getting like standardized test scores properly done or something. It wasn't so much inspiring. It wasn't Dead Poet Society level kind of speeches on chairs. At least not my schooling. So I feel you on that front. All right. So what are you doing in your college days? You didn't go to school, so what'd you do?
I started writing employee handbooks,
Okay.
and so I started writing, like, employee handbooks and law and, like, learning formatting and stuff like that, and then, um,
It's like training guides for Starbucks kind of thing.
like, different, employees, like, even, like, all the heritage golf groups, like, all of the golf courses and stuff, like, different industries of God, all kinds of industries, really, and then you have to there's so many different laws of, like, federal laws and state laws, and then, like, certain agriculture, they have laws, and then it depends, if you have 20 or more employees, certain laws abide by you, like, it's very, complicated.
Technical. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very technical, and then writing law, like, legal is, like, it takes the creativity out of it, and, yeah, it's very structured and boring. It's very
So
boring.
you did that for a little while and said, "Fuck it," or what happened? I'm just trying to get a pulse of the flow of your river. How did you get to the Gulf of Mexico? You started in the mountains kind of thing. So it's like, how did you get there?
Yeah, and then I started doing what was it? I started doing, like I went this girl invited me to go on a direct TV commercial, like wanted me to crash the audition. So I did, and I got it. Like it was a commercial for direct TV, and then that kind of led to other things like I would do I did It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Word?
Um yeah, I had a oh
Dayman.
god, I had what do you call it? I had a sex scene with Dennis Reynolds, and it was, like, too risque, so they put it on the bonus features, and it's, like, raunchy. It's
I
raun the
know. I
whole
gotta see this now. This is insane. This is why I ask people about their stories because what the fuck? I mean, it's fascinating. Like did you bond with Danny DeVito because you guys are Italians?
Oh gosh. You know what? My brother's friends with his nephew, like, they were friends, God, like, in high school, and so yeah, and then, I became friends with a couple of the writers and went to some, like, when Dana White signed with CAA, like, went to an event with them at the Chateau Marmont, and, yeah, that was wild. Owen Wilson was there, I just wanted him to tell me, "Wow."
Wow. One of my favorite gifs on fucking the internet is a picture. I mean, I can't. I've used it a bunch, but it's hard with gifs on Facebook to always use the same thing because it's algorithmic, I guess. Um, Owen Wilson picking up like deadlifting, and the weights are his head, and he has a head, and he lifts it, and the weights go wow or something like that. So Owen Wilson's funny. It's funny to me because normally I would be, how would I put it? Because I just looked at your chart, you're, like I said at the very beginning, you're always going to be kind of moving and shaking with the upper crust. Just is what it is. So I think this is gnarly. Like to me,
But
this
it's,
is
like,
crazy.
embarrassing. This is, like,
No,
hard
that
for me to
don't
talk
feel
about. Like, I
great.
wanted to
I love it.
separate I wanted to compartmentalize, like, I didn't want anyone in this community or whatever to know anything about, like,
She's
that
Oscar
stuff. So I'm
gold
like,
under the dress, guys. She's like that. But it's all good. You can't deny who you are.
I
See what I'm
know, I
saying?
have to embrace it, like,
On
don't
many
be
levels,
ashamed.
and maybe this is just a massage into that. Venus is now entered Scorpio for everybody, so we're going down the rabbit hole for sure. All right, so Always Sunny. I mean, it seems like I don't know what you would call that, like an entertainment industry kind of. What would you say you were doing? Because it was it's
Well,
not so much acting, but it's like you acted and then you
yeah,
did.
and then things would pop up, like, it's so weird how things would just show up, like, find you. I love that saying, like, "What is meant for you will never pass you by," which I love to like,
Mm,
especially people that are, like, longing for, like, their true love and a deep love relationship. It's like, "Remember, what is meant for you will never truly pass you by, ever." And so, it's also, like, applying that to, like, my, of certain circumstances, like, I worked at a like, I would get, like, promo jobs too, so I worked for Comic-Con, I worked for Marvel. Marvel was coming out with this video game, Ultimate Alliance, where all of the different superheroes come together for
mhm.
the first time, and then yeah, so
Like Capcom versus Marvel arcade games. I mean, it's like kind of a hit,
yeah, and it was
the biggest
the
hit thing.
release of that video game, and so I went to Comic-Con and, like, worked for Marvel, and, I got to
Did you
introduce Stan Lee, and, like, we were backstage, like, he gave me, like, we were hanging out and vibing for, like, hours, and it was awesome, and he
You've met
gave
the
me, like
Pope, you met Stanley. I just wanna point out, like, this is top of the pyramid shit. It's
I
like,
don't see
I
but
shook
it's
the
coming
Pharaoh's
across as, like,
hand.
name dropping,
No, but
like
I'm drawing it out of you, and I'm fascinated, so don't be
Mm,
self-conscious about it, but that's easier said than done 'cause maybe this is passé to you, but it's news to me, and I think it's novel. Like, I'm not judging you I mean, especially given the fact that I see it in your chart, it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're an attractor of power and wealth, basically, and value. So it's like it's who you are. You move and shake. Jupiter. I mean, just to make you feel better, Jupiter is about expansion and your luck, where the wind is at your back always. That's conjunct your sun, which is how you're shining on the stage of life, by a few degrees, 6 degrees. But your Saturn is conjunct your sun by a degree in Libra in 10th house. Your Pluto's there. Your Mercury's there. Your Mercury's in Scorpio, but um the point is you are it's whatever you're part it's like it's not quite like the Kennedys or something like that, but it's like you're just going to be part of a reality that's a little higher grade. 10th house is Capricorn, right? So it's just like your expansion is in the world, on the
mm,
stage of relationships in the world. So power, business moves, like, when you're like, I don't know how I got these gigs, they just all kind of happen and just leads into the thing. It's like, that's this. I mean, in a sense, I don't want to deflate and say you deserve these things. I guess you earned them somehow, but like the opportunities are going to magnetize towards you in that element.
mm.
So this is like talking to a mermaid, and she's like, I don't want to talk about how I splash. And it's like, you're in the fucking water. What are you gonna? No one, like, if people want to trip out about mermaids being in the water, that's their problem. But yeah, you're gonna be kind of a Beverly Hills type
Mm.
chica, no matter what, or Laguna Beach or whatever. You're making eyes. It's like, okay, I don't know the SoCal terms, but anyway, Stan Lee's cool. Did he
Oh, and
say
then they
anything
had
to you?
me, like so and then, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna need you to, auction off, like, we need you to be the auctioneer," and I had never done it in my life. I was like, "You need me to what?" So I got out there, I'm like, totally winging it, which is
Yeah,
harder than it maybe I was it's much harder. I
because
was
you're self
like,
conscious and self critical to the degree where you're like, I mean, the moments. It's like 10 seconds of awkward silence is like an eternity for you or something. So you're just
I'm
like,
like,
I don't
going
okay.
once, going twice. Like, trying to have the auctioneer, like, fastness,
Yeah.
swiftness,
Hey,
and yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
can't do it, so don't feel bad. So what did you dress up for the Comic-Con?
It was no, it was a white collared shirt, and it had,
Mm,
like, Marvel on so it was, like, very official. It
mm.
wasn't, like, something but one time I worked for because like, other promo things anytime promo things would come in, one time they had me be a showgirl, like, full-blown like feathers coming out, like the old school, like,
Yeah, yeah,
showgirl,
like the dan
and,
like the stage.
they just wanted me to stand in the booth, and then I ended up selling condos for them, like, they were like, "You're doing better than like, the people that have been with us," it was, like, these high-rise, luxurious luxury condos, and I was selling it, like, because 'cause I'm like, "Why just stand here?" Like, I wanna, like,
Hustle. Yeah.
yeah, I wanna sell. And so that was and then one time it was, for a gold convention, a gold company, and at a conference, and I loved I love talking to and engaging with people, and I love that's why I love conferences, is, like, that heart connection and, like, meeting people and vibing, and, so, yeah, conferences, I like that stuff. GameSpot, I worked for GameSpot. I was in, like, the first edition of, Xbox Live Gamer magazine. Like, I
Word.
got into yeah, like, I was really
You're a
passionate
gamer.
about
Yeah.
gaming, yeah, and so but, like, I was in the early days of it, but I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so that was a lot of fun. And then became a king. And then the Britney stuff. How that happened? People submitted me. Like I don't know. Like it was and it happened multiple times where there was like a casting place. I think it was David King Casting. They were looking for a Britney double, and multiple people submitted because when he found me, he's like, "Oh my god, I found you!" Like everybody's talking about. I'm like, "What?" So like multiple people had told him like, "I have a girl for you," and it was like all the same girl. So that was wild
What year was
because
that?
um, so the Britney video was there was multiple Britney videos, but the Womanizer one was very fascinating because Womanizer was in 2008,
Okay.
and so in 2008 I look at the address, right? And it's like I'm like, "Where do I go?" And I look it up, I'm like, "Downey." I'm like, "Dude, this is down the street from my Nona," right?
Mm,
And where my dad went to Downey High School. I'm like,
mhm.
"Where would it be filmed in Downey?" And so I show up and it was Boeing.
Like
Like,
the
it was
company?
Boeing. Yes, and so as a little girl, I was always told, like, there's a lot of, like, places like that over there, like JPL and, like, like, kind of around that area, and then like within a half an hour of that area. And so I was always told that Boeing, like that's the stuff they made that went to the moon,
Hmm.
right? So I thought it was like a production line of airplanes and stuff.
Mhm.
So
Fabrication plant or something.
yeah, so that's what
Mm.
I envisioned, and I so in my mind, like my whole childhood, that's what I thought was going on in there. And so I go to the guard gate and I go in there and there's, like, these huge hangars, and everything's, like, empty, but, so we're on set, and they're long days, 16, 17 hours,
What the fuck?
and yeah. Oh my
I didn't know
gosh.
it was that hard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely, and so, there was a few people that snuck away, like, and, we like, it with exploring in those hangars,
Mhm.
which it kinda bitch slaps a lot of the other studios in Hollywood, like, there's some like, it was, like, almost like at a grander scale, like,
Okay.
inside, I
Right.
felt, but so, there was you walk in and it's, like, this stuff that looks like a set of the moon, like, these capsules, like, things that you're shown as the moon, like, you walked in this hangar and it was like, "Dude, I'm on the set for the moon." So, I always say, like, "Dude, I know where
The
the
sound
moon
stage.
landing was
Yeah.
filmed, okay?" And
Yeah.
it was like I had so many questions, like, "Wait, why is this still here?" Like, okay,
Smoking
say it
gun
was used
forever.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, why is this here? And even if it wasn't used to film that stuff, like, why is this here
Was
right now?
was it just collecting dust, or did it do stuff there? Like,
That's
did
what
you
I was
break
it's like,
Yeah.
imagine exploring, and you walk in and you're like, "What the this looks like what is that?" And you're going up to it, and it's like you're touching this thing that's supposed to be like this capsule, it's like the moon and it's like a movie set, like, it's thin,
Hmm.
it's
It's like
like a straight
faulty,
set.
kind of. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not
Yeah.
totally real, not substantial to the degree of reality, but like a, set, like you're saying, a set design. It's I'm telling Go ahead, Raphael. Oh, he's got
Just as
questions now.
no, 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 no. Just as it's fascinating all that you say. Just as we're on the topic, there is one great original Google Tech Talk by Steve Blank, which is called The Secret History of Silicon Valley. And that's interesting because it goes back, at least, if I understand this correctly, to the First World War, and how already back then they had all these military things and so on sprawling there. And I think also now with, Stanford Research Institute. I mean,
JPL.
you know all about that, Julia, right? It's like it's full. But of course, it's highly interesting also how, on the one hand, you then eventually got confronted to it, but how it also works that you can grow up in an area and maybe not exactly even understand for many years what's going on next to you. And of course, that's the same for everyone. I don't know what's going on. I don't even want to say any place now, right? But you see, yeah, so it's fascinating.
It is. This is the kind of. I mean, look, I want to get into remote viewing and what you're doing at conferences and stuff like that. So I do want to kind of be a professional, I guess you could say. But I love hearing how the grapes, how are they crushed by feet to make this bottle of wine, or it's like that. So, what the fuck? I imagine you. I mean, given that you're talking to people who are alien fanatics and stuff, I imagine you're aware of the Jack Parsons and, like you were saying, JPL. Yeah. I- Any thoughts on that? I mean,
Oh,
that's
Jack Parsons.
random to be like, yeah, Jack Parsons. If people don't know, he's the guy who's basically doing odes to Pan for a long time and just doing kind of Crowleyan thelemic magic. Um,
I think,
and
and
ultimately, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, go
But
ahead.
basically, ultimately, he was doing these sky rituals, kind of like what we were saying earlier with the phallus and the like the Osirian, I guess Osiris it would be the Osirian kind of initiation with the phallus in the sky being newt or whatever the fuck the Egyptian mythology is. Um, and the government got a hold of it and they were like, "You're blowing shit up, but we like what you're doing, so come do it for us." Basically, and that's how
Absolutely,
we got
yeah, and I
NASA and all
think
this stuff.
there, like, with my this maybe goes skips forward a little bit, but
Okay.
um, with my like with viewing things and everything, I when I dove down a rabbit hole, I wanted to because I was searching for people that could do what I do, or
Mhm.
like I was looking for a guide, I was looking for guidance, knowledge of it, and I felt like my answers were like a character from Game of Thrones, Bran, and
The Raven
Edward
Kid.
Kelly, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Edward Kelly from and John Dee, and then, in some of the things that it seemed, um, and there was like a little bit of the information of Parsons where I was like, oh, interesting, but I think he was taking a whole nother route to that. But
Yeah.
the whole Edward Kelly thing, because I always thought, I don't know why I thought John Dee was the one that could see. He couldn't see. He wasn't a seer. Like, so
He was scrying in a cup or some shit, right?
no,
Coming
but
up with
he was
language.
like more of the translator, more like
The Rosetta
Edward Kelly
Stone.
was the one that would see. He was
Okay.
the one that
So he was the
he was the
stenographer.
seer. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
got
John Dee was more of like the, organizer and the scribe, to be
you.
honest.
Yeah.
So, and kind of an organizer and overseer, just like with the and like the Oracle of Delphi and like those, there's always like there's like a seer and there's kind of like a priest that would translate, or oversee or kind of like gatekeep it or oversee it. So, but they seem to, I always felt like what Edward Kelly and John Dee thing changed everything. Like that they did and implemented some things that changed the course of history. And I believe that Jack Parsons did as well.
Punctuation events in the Tao, so to speak. It's funny. When I was in Australia, right around when we were starting this podcast, I was in Gold Coast with a friend, and I didn't smoke that much weed, but like every now and then we'd smoke. And at some point, I had just turned on to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which is debatable on the accuracy of it or whatever, but it's kind of cool if you approach it kind of like a Star Wars or like this kind of Game of Thrones or something. It can be very entertaining. Anyway, something like that happened. I was basically just sitting there stoning, not channeling, that's a strong word, but just kind of like having a vibration of truth coming through me, and I was speaking upon it. And then she wasn't writing things down, but when you said that, it made me think of that vibe where it's just like, all right, someone's talking to the angel and someone else is kind of scribbling
No,
down
it helps,
jargon.
and especially if it's masculine and feminine. Well,
Mm.
that's what I believe. Like
Of course you do, you Libra. Like, we need to balance this. It needs to be perfectly balanced. That was not an
the
impression, dude.
masculine takes the information and organizes it, and the feminine intuits and receives it. So I think that would be the ultimate. We're like, that's where you went wrong, Edward Kelly. Okay, you should have had a
Had a
female
cheek.
John D.
Yeah, the
You
high
should have had a
priestess.
Jennifer D.
That would have been the strength card. His strength. Well, actually, that's funny that we're saying that because I think the strength card in the Crowley deck is different. Raphael, do you remember this? It's something else. I forget. I'm not so into Crowleyan.
No, it's just
Go ahead.
strength and adjustment are changed. So the 8 and the 11 in the major arcana, they're exchanged.
So Kelly needed to make an adjustment to have more strength. Bring in the girl. All right. So we did hop a little forward, but I don't care. So tell us a little about remote viewing. Like, what's your idea of it? Like, how did you turn on to it? I mean, obviously, you've got some kind of gifts and you've tapped into them over the years, and maybe they were like, whatever, The Shining, where it's like you don't know what's going on, you don't have a guide particularly. So, when did you kind of start compartmentalizing and saying, I want to use these things and they're
Oof.
something I'm not ashamed of, that kind of stuff?
Okay. This is, of course, is extremely weird, and it's different. No, don't say weird. It's different of how this
You have strength card, you can do it.
this started from in 2013. I like in November of 2013. um, like
Scorpio
basically
season.
I was guided to stare at specific stars and basically go into like a trance, and then I would like receive information. And so and then writing that down, like this actually caused like so this actually caused like a lot of like kind of my life to be completely stripped away. And then because I didn't understand, like I started receiving information that like when I would write it down, which is hard in its sense of training the mind and to receive. And then when your eyes are like that and you're in that trance, to then write it down as you're seeing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it took a lot of time and effort and energy. And in the relationship I was in, I think he thought I was like possessed or like, what is this chick do? You know what I mean? Like she's outside staring at
Well,
stars,
it's atypical
you
for
know,
sure.
like, and then
Yeah,
me
free
and then me
associating.
even trying to
Yeah.
process that in this world, right? And so some of the information I was shown a lot of information, and I would write it down. And so when I started reverse imaging searching, like I would like some of them were like formulas, some of them were specific sound stuff, and then like there was these one symbols that this language really fascinated me because I was seeing these symbols of this language, and I would get very frustrated, like angry, frustrated to this day, really, of like I don't know what it means. Like I see it, I write it down, I don't know what it means. So when I started reverse Google image searching over that first year, 2 years, some of it was like alchemical symbols that stopped being used in the 15th century. So then I was like, okay,
Whoa.
but what do I do with this? So then it kind of made me obsess a little bit and want to know more of like, why am I being shown? And then asking these questions and having nobody to turn to, and then spending years, of trying to get my mind and then coming up with my own protocol. And because I would have profound results, but then there'd be so much time where no results. And then I wanted to go back to, wait, why am I not getting the results that I got? I've gotten this profound information and then being aggressively guided. And it's like having a guide that's not in this realm, like being guided by something else that you can't physically touch. So that's also,
Mhm.
kind of hard to digest. And so, it's
Look, you've got your Venus conjunct exactly Uranus in 11th house, which is Aquarius flavored Scorpio. You are like a fucking little Nikola Tesla antenna for the mystery. I mean, that's the best way to put it. So it's like, yes, this is going to happen. You're going to get a lot of downloads. I'll say a brief story really quick just to contextualize it. Back in the day, more like 2003, I was doing weird shit. I felt like guided by not voices or spirit, but like guided by just intuition. I started kind of running on a treadmill at the highest level for a while, listening to G Unit on a loop, getting into a high hypnagogic trance state, and then getting off and doing these long kind of breathing things to Hey Jude's na na na's sections being like a breath. I've said this before, but anyway, doing that for a few weeks for no fucking reason. Ended up astrally projecting, which was crazy, and I haven't done it since. But it was like full on like going places, which might tie into remote viewing. But during that period, because this is pre YouTube, I was turning on to chakras, and at some point I was doing kind of toning, which I like a lot to do. And I don't remember exactly what happened. Like, it was for 1 minute I'm doing the root chakra, the next minute I'm kind of waking up, but it felt like, when you hear tinnitus in
mhm.
your ears and it's like super high pitched stuff, it felt like I was like in a meditative state, and all of a sudden it was like that tinnitus was not light language. It's not quite like that. It was like little strands of language that I could, if I tuned in just enough, it was basically saying, it's all in your spine. It's all in your spine. Everything's in your spine. I know, right? I thought you might find a kick out of that. So when we're saying things, and especially like sober or not, when I'm out in Colorado, I'm not there now, but at the high altitude, it's very clear skies. So you look at like Sirius or stars like that, and I swear to God, they're talking is a strong word, but it's like it's beautiful little sparkle gemmy action, but it feels like there's information there, and I don't know how to translate. So it seems like that's the kind of
Well,
stuff you're
it's it
tapping
the
into.
chrism, it's
Um,
that, it's a secretion of a substance that, like, it's born in our sacred plexus, like, where the 5 fused vertebrae of the spine meet, and it's born there, and then it's the
mm,
journey up to the 33 vertebrae to be crucified or amplified in power. Like, and when it rises up and meets the pituitary and pineal after spending 3 days in the hypothalamus, like the tomb, it creates a circuit secretion of DMT. So when it rises, and they say when the moon enters your star sign, like that's when it begins. And then that having,
I didn't know
yeah.
that. I'm learning
And
things. Yeah. Okay.
but the whole the serotonin too, and but so the visions of that happening, and so when diving down, we'll get to the cerebral spinal fluid if we get there, but of me, yeah.
We'll get
So
there.
that completely has a lot to do with it. But isn't that
So
huh?
journaling. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Raphael popped up. He has a question probably. I just want to pin back to
Yeah,
where we
before you
started with all this.
continue,
Your
just
boyfriend's like, "What
before
the
you
fuck are
continue
you
while we're on
journaling?"
that, I
Yeah.
think, is that also related to this Taoist study I believe I read once, where it's also about the energetic circuit, and then it's supposed like to drop down from behind your mouth, kind of, and supposed to taste sweet, right? Is that the
Mhm.
thing?
Yeah,
We're
they call
talking
it the
about the same
honey.
thing, right? And then because I had read about this, and of course, it's, how should I say, reality is highly accelerated. The higher density the DMT is within your system, obviously. But so I'd known about these things, and then the very first time I did ayahuasca and had, surprisingly enough, the perfect setup. At the very end, or close to the end, because I was fasting the whole day and all of that, and only drinking water. And then I could really feel, I was like, why do I have this strange taste in my mouth? Tastes sweet. And then I was like, it was just exactly what I read about. I don't even know if that can happen within such a short period of time or how the dynamics would be, but I just found it quite interesting. And yeah, this would confirm that this is a real thing if what I experienced is a, real perception, right?
Nectar of the gods. Something interesting. All right, so we could talk about anything, but chronologically speaking, we were at where you're starting to kind of look at stars, get a
Yeah.
language, write it down. Who
Yeah,
knows what
which
it
it
is?
turns
Your
out
boyfriend's like, "What the
the
heck?"
star system I was looking in, I found out years later that I think it was Tesla and Einstein spoke
Mhm.
of channeling information from that constellation. So I was like, it was huge because it was something I kept secret. I was like, you can't tell anyone about this, Julia. Like it was one of those things.
Stick to
Yeah,
the bread.
of like, no, and so there
Yeah.
was like, but when I heard that, I was like, "You see, like, you're not crazy, like, this is a real thing." But I found out, so I was told that I produce higher amounts of DMT naturally. So actually, I've never done,
Mm.
it's interesting because 'cause I've been in these scenarios where I had a lot of opportunities to do acid or, what do you call it? Hallucinogenics. Yeah, or
Psychedelics.
psychedelics,
Yeah, yeah.
and, I was always aggressively told, like, guided, like, "You cannot," and I was like, "What?" And then weird things would happen where people that were like, "Oh, yeah, you gotta have some," were like, "No, you cannot." Like, people that were literally like, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you some," and we're like, "No." Like, all of a sudden, something like, switched within them, they're like, "No, you can't, you're too headstrong." I'm like, "What? You were just preaching about this for, like, a few weeks." Like, that's weird, but I was always, like, guided, so I don't know if it would change, um, my once you do something like that.
We won't tempt you down that rabbit. You do your thing. I
No,
don't
but,
judge
like,
either way. I mean, if you
what
were
that
very
inner
sensitive,
guidance
like,
system,
well,
I
I
don't know
get
if
it.
it's, like, I'm supposed to be an example of, like, "No, there's a way to do this, like, naturally," and to be able to say, or if it would have changed something like, neural pathways.
You stole the
Yeah,
secret. Yeah.
neural pathways
You're like,
of once you do that, if it would adjust it or change it, I
So
don't know.
if I may allow, if you allow me a layman's interpretation, very layman, I would just say for most people where it's really useful and relevant is actually to open up certain connections and be able to at least realize there's a veil. Not even talking about piercing it right now.
yeah, maybe there's more than I
But in your
think. Yeah.
case, if already you have all of that, it makes good sense for, as I would say now, your higher self to be like, no, you want to grab the toy. And it's like, no, you're already tuned probably, in the proper way. That's how I would explain it, but
Yeah, and a weird analogy would be everyone's like, "You gotta tune your guitar to this tune." Oh my god, oh my god, it's like you're in tune. So, like, it might be redundant. Who knows? I mean, in a sense, at some point, I mean, on your deathbed, you're gonna trip no matter what, right? So it's like you'll get that DMT trip and dreaming and all
but
that
that's the
stuff.
thing. If she already has elevated levels, that's what
No
I'm
need.
saying,
Yeah,
so
that's what's up.
So, okay, so, remote viewing. Okay, so there was an instance, this is kinda interesting, of I'll take it there. Okay, so I was
Trusting
told
her
by
gut.
this.
She says yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
there was
You
this
have strength.
time. It's kind of TMI though, like, but it's lucrative. So there was this guy. He wanted to know about his professional soccer career, and he was like, he was a jerk. He was an Aries. He was a total dick, and
Shout out Aries.
his grandfather played for like Paris Saint Germain or something. I don't know, whatever. So he wanted to know about his professional soccer career, and he was like envious of what I was able to do. Like I proved him time again of like things I was able to do, and he was like envious because he couldn't do it or something. So he'd hate on it and always try to like dim it down, or I don't know. It was he had issues. So he
He
was like,
coveted your gift. Is the bottom line.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he wanted to. He was like, oh, I always told him like I'm not allowed to pull tarot. Like I was always guided. I can't do what do you call it? I can't do hallucinogenics, and I'm not allowed to f with tarot myself. And so I don't know, maybe if I would be dependent on it, or if I don't know why, like fully. So he puts the cards down. He's like, well, if you're psychic, you could do it. You'll know what it means. And I don't back down to a challenge. Like I have like a warrior mind, I'm not all love and light. So I'm like, what? Like give me the cards, like, so I pull him, I put him down. He's like, well, what does it mean? And so I'm looking at it and he goes, you know what? Just do what you do. So we're sitting, there's a table, there's canned lights above us. There's a pair of sunglasses, right?
Mhm.
So I move the sunglasses. He's like, just do what you do. So I was like, okay. I move the sunglasses, I angle it towards the light with the can light, and then I stare at it, and I'm staring at it. And I say, he's standing there, and I said, it's showing me a 96, 97, or 98 Volkswagen. It's a Jetta or a Passat because it's so small, right? I can't see because Jettas and Passats, they look very
Most people would say,
similar.
I see
Okay.
a car. Your gearhead ass is like, I hear the engine. It needs an oil change or whatever.
So I'm like, it's a Volkswagen Jetta or a Passat, and I'm like, it's vibrating, it's shaking. That's weird. So then I'm like, it's showing me a room, and there's a window, and there's two guys. One of them's like a teenager, like one of them's like 16, other one's like 12, and then I'm like describing the room a little bit, and I was like, oh my god! And I feel when I view stuff, I feel what each person in the room is feeling, like completely, like it's intense. So I'm feeling this guy. I'm like, oh my god, he whipped out his right, and this
Dick?
gets pretty
Okay.
explicit.
Whatever.
And then
Noted.
okay, and then I'm like, yeah, he whipped out his thing. Oh my god, the other one, he's turned on. Oh wait, he's curious. Oh my god, he's going to like, you know,
Do
put it.
something.
Yeah, and so I was like,
You
oh
said
my
a
god, I was like,
Libra.
I'm like, I want to leave. I want to leave. And he goes, describe the room. And I go, there's a vineyard. I see it looked like a vineyard or like a rose. It looked like a vineyard. And I'm like, there's a garden. There's another window to the left. There's a bed in front of the one window, and there's a sitting area to the left. And so I'm like, I want to leave. And after I said that, I'm like, and so I come out of it. I look up. He's breathing really hard. His eyes are teary. He said, I wanted to be like my cousin. He lived in France, and I wanted to be like him, and I idolized him. And then one summer, I went over there, and he would, and did that. And yeah, I did that. And I was like, well, he has a message for you. And I was like, he's sorry. And he said that he passed away like a few years later. And so like leukemia, something, I think it was leukemia, but he's like, yeah, he had a 97 Passat, or it was or folks, I don't remember now, but he's like, he would listen to West Coast rap, and he had a system in it. He would listen to like Dr. Dre and stuff, and it would vibrate. So,
Hieroglyphics.
right.
They're West Coast. Anyway.
So
That's
like
crazy.
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's good
So,
crazy.
but then, yeah, so that was that. So then it got to a point where, like, I think that guy
Did
was
you not
one of
fuck
the.
with tarot cards after that? I mean, is that like your kind of cherry popping moment and that's it?
I felt the thing is like I was really curious where I was like, I feel like this could help more messages, because I would get frustrated doing readings for people because number one, sometimes I don't always understand it. Like somebody came to me, he wanted to know when he was getting his inheritance, right? He was like, I want you to remote view
Laguna Beach
when
dramas. It's like, when am I going to inherit this bread
yeah, to
company?
get it. And so I was like, so I looked at it, and it was showing me the Day of the Dead. You know, like that Le Mortes. What is it? Le De los Mortes.
Yeah, no
Um,
hablo, but I know what you're saying. It's
the
like
Day of the
Halloween
Dead.
kinda Mexico thing. Yeah.
Kept it showing that face, and I was like, I think by November 1st, like, and so I don't sometimes know what it means. It'll show me, but it doesn't mean I know. And so what's interesting is that the next time I saw that person, we went to a Kings game, and it was on all the shirts that they handed out to everyone was the Les Mortes images, and and he had gotten his money by then, but sometimes I don't know, like, you just, what do? You say what you see, doesn't mean like everything's
Some like
coded.
Minority Report, right? Or she's like in the if you've seen that film with Tom Cruise, which is based off of a Philip K. Dick book, but Minority Report, you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Have you not seen my? Okay, yeah.
And
I was
then
like, please tell me.
she's got like stuff plugged into her, but what does she see? She
She just
sees
gets
like,
images, and they have to kind of consult each other to get the verified image fully. I mean, it's like fragments of. I mean, it sounds like what you experienced. Fragments of ideas that don't have necessarily context, but then they end up becoming very applicable later on. Um, if people haven't seen that movie, it's interesting. It's a pretty good sci-fi movie. But yeah, fragmentation kind of visions. It's sometimes I imagine sometimes it's not just like a straight up full on like here's the Constitution read by the founder or what whatever. It's not a full on like audio visual thing. It's just kind of like a media pixel or something like that, and it's just a hit like that. This is I'm not going to switch off too much, but Melissa is asking what constellation were you staring at?
oh, there's 3 or 5 of them, but the most profound was Boutet's.
Okay. So I don't know enough about stuff. Bootes. I would say booties, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm fucking wrong here. Uh, bootylicious.
Boutet.
Booties. Up in the sky. I have a feeling that I don't know why I think it's near Lepus and some rabbit shit possibly. But anyway, I'll look into that later. I was going to look at my phone, but I can't multitask very well. Gemini, Sun, Moon, Chiron, Life. All right. So basically, your friend who was kind of a dick got the message he needed. Was
But
that
then
one
he
of the
was
more
like, he kind of questioned, like, he was one of the ones too to be like, do you even know who you're talking to? Like, you're talking, like, there was some people that were like, you're talking to fallen angels, like, you're talking to demons. And so I not wasted, nothing's ever wasted. I spent 2 years of like, now hold on here. How am I, who am I talking to? What am I working
sure
with?
discernment? Yeah.
So, and then,
What was
that,
your
so
conclusion after 2 years?
Mike,
Astral
oh,
beings, which,
um,
who knows the
I've
language?
yeah, I flirt. I like to theosophize. I like to there's I'd hate to say one answer because there's times it's like a stick shift. Like I'm in one
Sure,
gear
sure.
and I'm like, I feel like it's that, but then there's like a whole nother layer of what you're accessing. And ultimately it's like there's a governor like in this ability too. So that's why I'm very careful about like what to reveal too. Because if you reveal like not everything, there's a reason why learn you take away L and it's earn. You earn it. Like there's these spiritual certain knowledges were just supposed to be handed out.
Sure.
And like it's not
Yeah,
supposed to
initiation
always.
and thresholds of excess and all that kind of stuff. I mean, gatekeeping is the negative version of that, but it's like, yeah, you don't want to pearls to swine, right? You don't want to just give information to people that can't handle it or will demonize it or whatever. It's so funny what you're saying is some Saturn conjunct Sun shit, like hardcore. You're like, you got to earn it. Look, learn is earn without the L. It's like, what the fuck? Yes, it is. You're
Like,
right.
Jim
Who?
saw a video of like something I was saying, like I was talking about like if you love it, like we're taught that what I said in the video, I said we thought like if you love something, you'll give whatever it wants, like anything you want, I'll give you everything. Like if you love it, you'll give it that. When really, if you love something, you discipline it. And Jim was like, I've never seen a more better example of like Saturn and Libra.
Pretty
You love it,
much.
you'll
You
discipline it.
got to earn it. You got to prove. I mean, Saturn is Snape. Jupiter's Dumbledore. Is how I look at it with astrology. So Jupiter is like, I want to give you gifts. Harry, come up to my penthouse. You have access to the Phoenix. You know the code, and nobody. It's like very kind of privileged. Jupiter expansion, more, more, more. How do you like it? Kind of all the things. And Saturn's like Snape, where it's like -5 points for Gryffindor. Fuck you. I owe you karma, your mom. I don't like you. It's very kind of a serious. I mean, Saturn is like lead and heavy and stuff. So in a sense, you might have a very. I mean, you're pretty buoyant. You're a Libra and all that. Jupiter is there too, somewhat. So it kind of you balance out, ironically. But my God, you're very. You can be very serious and you take things seriously, like what you're saying. You're like, I don't know what I should even say about this because maybe TMI or whatever. Anyway, I'm rambling. So that's a cool story about the remote viewing. So when you say remote, I mean, I don't need like a textbook definition, but to you, it's just getting like pixels of data packages and then you unfold them basically, and then you can kind of. It doesn't mean you understand the context, even possibly. You're just
So
kind
it's
of
like,
getting
you know,
senses.
there's certain clairvoyants who can perform this, they travel psychically without physically going there, like to a distant place. They could see objects and people, and you could even, hear, smell things.
Mm.
And so they call it like far sight, far sensing, second sight. I don't even like calling it remote viewing. I want to call it inner jeweling. Maybe I'll take that someplace.
Hashtag interjuling copyright.
Inner jeweling. We all
Yeah.
got a jewel here, and we need to go inside and access it. And so, in the 70s, the CIA implemented like the psychic program, like using it as an intelligence tool, and
Men who stare
they
at
had,
goats kind of thing.
yeah, and they spent millions and on this psychic phenomenon, and like for me, it changes. Sometimes it'll be like a diagram. Sometimes it'll be like a photo. Sometimes it's like like literally like a drone. Like one time it was like I was above the ocean and it was going and I could literally smell the ocean and like it felt like there was wind blowing in my hair, like in my face. And I
Mm,
love it when it does that. And each time there's profound results. It's always like my first time. Like every
mm.
time I'm like, I can't believe, and my mind's like, I can't believe this is happening right now. Which that's like a whole nother story if we ever get to the like inner earth thing of what happened before the Vice show. That was crazy. But
We're gonna get there.
so
We're only at 111, might I say, in
oh my
33
god. Okay,
seconds.
so remote viewing of for a long time, I would do this where, I would do blind targets. It was almost like I was trying to prove to people. I no longer do that. I am over that. Like, it's like if you don't believe it, like you're one less. Like I literally don't care. Like I'm
Yeah,
not
fuck.
here to convince people of that is no longer like of interest of me.
It's a waste of
I'm
energy. I mean, as long as you believe what your truth is, walk your
yeah,
path,
but
kind of thing.
I've spent a lot of time and energy of like proving people. So they would do blind targets and give me things, and
Where
I
are
would
my
get,
car keys?
yeah, exactly. Like, oh, well, what? And
You just look
so
so much like Britney Spears just then it irked me. Like something you just everybody look back at that little "oh what" moment and you'll be like, "Hey, that's" anyway, keep going. I was just like, "I see why they cast you." Keep
so
going.
yeah, so remote viewing. I no longer would do like I didn't have anything to prove anymore of
Right.
doing that. So then I was very conscious, hyper conscious, and I'm very very cautious and I guess vigilant maybe
Mhm.
of things that you use it for, because a lot of people, I got a lot of offers. I could be making so much money of like betting, like gambling of
Sure, stock market. Where's this body?
right.
Give me Hoffa's body. Find it. We'll give you $1,000,000, whatever. That kind of stuff.
So I was very like cautious, and there's people that have told me like you have blockages when it comes to that, like gambling and stuff like that, of using it to
It's
an
like the drugs.
advantage.
They won't let you play like against the rules in a way. Because Virgo to me is more the Vestal Virgin, like the Temple Whore, who's like, I'm in love with God, and no one, I'm a virgin for Zeus or whatever. But you almost have that vibe. Saturn and Jupiter and 10th house with Libra. It's like you're kind of a stewardess of mystic airways, and like you can be on the flight if you're not drunk. You see what I'm saying? It's like if you play by the
Mhm.
rules, you get to have the access. If you fuck around a little, I don't know if that's a
That's
self-imposed
what
thing
no,
or
no,
real.
that's a perfect way, that's a way better way to explain it, because 'cause I'm always like, I feel like there'll be a consequence. Like, well, it would I would lose my accuracy and my certain abilities. Like, and there's certain people that are like, "Well, um, uh, like, no, that's you creating that." But is
Who's
it?
to say?
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
wanna fuck around and find out. I'm not willing to do that.
Well, and yeah, in a sense, this is where it gets tricky because on the one hand, well, this is yeah. Do you eat the apple? Is the whole point. It's like I want to stay in the garden. I like the fucking pool here. If I get kicked out, I'm in a desert. That's a metaphor, obviously, but so you're getting full on sensory kind of downloads of something, and you were going from kind of trying to prove where's my lost dog to people to not doing that. what other kind of experiences have you had, or
Mm.
the gifts and stuff?
So
Go
so
ahead.
then like I remote viewed the virus like with second they like I won't really get into that cuz but I was like okay, like in March of 2020. Then I had okay, so when I had remote viewed a place in Romania that changed everything. Like
Was it
it
a pyramid or
shifted
some shit?
something. The like this place in like Busegi like in Romania and basically like I interfaced with it and it was able and that's how I fell upon the cerebral spinal fluid is because there's this place and it's this ancient crystalline technology and when it accesses when it's able to show you on a screen things that who you are, where you came from, and then probabilities in the future, but also who your ancestors are, what they experienced and I was like, because there's times where I'll get a little flighty, like, once first of all, once I got down there, I was like, "I feel amazing down here." And then I saw, like, in this hallway, it was like it looked like a gold hallway, but it had sediment. You could barely see the gold. Because I was like, "Why do I feel so amazing deep within the earth?" And I was like, "What is this spot?" But it was like the sediment buildup and then there's slightly gold. I'm like, "Huh, does that emit like, is there just so much gnarly, horrible, like, waves of the you're bombarded with all these different frequencies here and like, is it surface Earth that have it that bad or but there was something special. I felt like I was superhuman down there, so I didn't even care about peeking around and getting to the
This is the
gist of it because 'cause I'm
Romania
like,
place,
"I feel
right?
amazing." Yes. Yes,
So
and I
were
was
you
like,
drawn
"Oh,
to
the
it, or
gold."
how did that even ping? Romania is random as fuck. Like, were you just
Right.
like, "Ooh, I'm gonna follow this," and you kind of realize where you are? I mean, I'm trying to just kinda get an idea of how did you
So
even know it was Romania?
it was a target location, and so
Oh,
when
okay.
yeah, so then when I didn't even care about having a deeper look because I felt so amazing, and then I saw that hallway, I'm like, "Oh, the gold," and then I had to peek around, and then I'm there, and I see these screens, and it was able to read you, and I stopped it, I was like, "Wait," because it blew my mind, like, I'm not plugged into anything, how is it able to read you? And then
Mhm.
it showed me, I asked that, and it showed me, clear fluid going up the spine, and I was like, "Cerebral spinal fluid? Like, no way." And so, I had this interfacing with it, and I wrote it down, and then in 20 I think it was in 2020 that I filmed the results of it and, like, posted it, like, on a YouTube. And
Okay.
then I took it down, I was like, "No, no, no." Like,
TMI.
yeah.
Edit myself.
Yeah, but it was, that's what got me into the cerebral spinal fluid and, like, oh my gosh, that it's just it really changed everything, and then I started becoming, like, hypersensitive about what am I using this for, and, like, that I wanted to look into, like, ancient sites and use it to, like, I don't know, hidden things that can help us here and now.
Not surprising. So you stumbled into the fucking X-Men laboratory of Romania or whatever the fuck, Professor Xavier's, like, rooms, and do you think, how would I put it? Was it conscious living entity kinda guiding you, or was it just, like, kind of, like,
There's some
crystalline data, or what?
What do you mean? Like, with a lot of these things, like, of what who something that's guiding me? It's some kinda elder, but, I've had, um so are you talking about interfacing with it?
Right,
Of
specific
being
with this Romania event, what's coming to mind, there was a shitty movie back in the day, I think, called, you remember the guy, the black dude from the 7 Up commercials who was kind of a comedian? He
Oh,
was in
yeah.
this as a holographic projection. Basically, I think it was H.G. Wells movie, like The Time Machine or something like that. It had, the guy from Memento, I think, is the main character. I don't remember their names or anything, but anyway, it was a terrible movie. But he goes to the future. I mean, he's like in London or whatever. He goes to the future and it's all shit, but he's still in the same place. And it's essentially AI hologram technology that he's interacting with. So it's kind of like Siri of the future. So I'm wondering what you were getting told about that situation. Did it feel more
Okay.
like tech,
Well,
or was it
that
like
brings me
living?
well, no, okay, so that takes me to another time I had remote viewed Brittany and the show wanted a location, like, other inner Earth entrances or
Spears?
where they no, 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 Brittany,
Okay. I was like, holy shit.
Andreas is Brittany.
Okay.
Andreas
Okay.
is
Okay.
Brittany.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And so, it was the show or it was Brittany, and they wanted me to do like because they couldn't film at a place, and they're like, "Another remote view, a place in inner Earth location." So, this was kind of by accident. So, I was looking at that, or it was a volcano in Antarctica. And so or Brittany asked me to look at a Antarctica volcano. Anyways, so I had stumbled upon this, which ended up being this ancient pyramid in Antarctica that is organic AI. It's an organic,
Okay.
like it's beneath this pyramid, and it reminded me of what was in
Huh.
Romania a little bit. So that's where I was like, "Whoa, hold on!" I was trying to differentiate, and I was being like, kind of. I feel so stupid when I'm showing these things
Do
because I'm
not
like,
feel
my
stupid.
mind, no,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like my mind, like they're trying to explain something to me, or or like
Amber Dutch.
that I'm not fully getting, but like there's a mechanical AI, but there's this ancient organic crystalline AI that has like more access. And so I'm like, wait, but that can access the mechanical. Like to me, the lines get a little blurry of what's able to access that. And then a good way to yeah, so the organic crystalline AI and there's a mechanical AI and there's a difference. Like a big difference, and that one stores the organic one stores a lot more information, and it's a lot older.
So it's like Sophia versus Archonic energy or something like that. Possibly.
Yeah,
That's a
well,
weird way
yeah,
to put it.
another way of that's what I was gonna say is like imagine. I mean, I don't. This isn't fully what it is, but imagine it being like a satanic AI
Mhm.
and a Christ consciousness AI of
Sure.
like the Akashic records, and there's that, but like the one doesn't have what the other one has,
Yeah.
not full
Yeah.
access, but that one does. Like
You
it's hard.
game. Have you played Zero Dawn Horizon? Zero Dawn?
No,
Oh, god damn it. Okay, I'm not gonna get into it now because there's a few things that are coming to mind, but that's basically, I mean, if you just watch the walkthrough of the cinemas, like you don't have to play the game, but basically it's a post-apocalyptic thing with humans cloning themselves in the future using technology, blah blah. They have all these systems that do stuff, and Hades, they're they're named after Greek kind of things. Hades is this redundancy kind of Terminator program or something. And it's kind of like what you're saying. It's like it's on the same. It's a sibling, I guess. Or maybe it was Hephaestus, but I think it's Hades. It's on the same. It's like a sibling of the organic AI, if you want to put it that way. But it doesn't have. It's like a unwanted stepchild kind of thing. Where it's like I don't have the code, I can't play, and now I'm bitter, so I'm gonna fuck up the system. Kind of energy. It's a weird way to put it.
This kind of stuff is also replayed in the newest Star Trek Enterprise Picard or something, I think. There's also at least one thing where they recover Data, who's now becoming human or something, and also he has to fight with his evil cousin and who has access how and what is so this is replayed in many, I think, also popular ideas, this idea of also having different types of AIs. And just as you're talking about it, Melissa is saying, all right, but this was not the message I wanted, this one, because she says when she's tapping into something, she says, no, usually the message is loving and helpful, and not getting evil vibes, but still she's afraid of the government. So a secret agenting us, she says. So I want to know for you, Julia, how is it for you that you would say you can discern, or how would you say, oh, I'm sure that the information I'm getting, I'm just making this up because I also did some channeling and I heard all those stories, like how are you sure it's
Well,
not
She's a
yes?
straight A Project Bluebeam monarch. That's what you're saying. How do you know she's just not excelling in the class for the government without her knowing it, kind of thing? Like 11 from
No, not
Stranger
necessarily
Things.
the government. Just basically the question: what is the source of the signal? That's always the question. Like even if the message is positive and maybe helpful, some people, Melissa, maybe I heard this many times. Just like you said, are you sure it's not a fallen angel? Maybe feeding you good information and then trap your soul or something. I'm deliberately saying it like that. How do you discern yourself? Discern with that, or how do you just deal with that? Basically, in practicality.
I think it's a feeling, it's a perception as well. But back to what you guys were saying about the clone, I had a thought about like you said something
Riff.
about the clones, and then I think that's another thing. Like when humanity's ready to like start talking about cloning, and then we're talking about uploading, and then what kind of data they're gonna upload their clone bodies from, and maybe that's kind of what happened is the implementation of the mechanical one of like, we're going to need a system to upload from, but maybe when you clone, you're unable to connect to the organic AI and the Akashic, and that could be why you lose the imagination and everything. But Melissa's question is, how do you know well, like if you look at the information as well, so, when you're trying to view something, whether it's something that was lost and you get it, it's like, did they lie to me? Did it lie to me? Like it showed me, like I saw where it was. Um, I think purity, I'm constantly shown, gosh, my eyelash keeps doing that. I'm
I was wondering
constantly
if that's like
shown.
Illuminati symbolizing. I'm like, oh my
No.
god, she's triggering us. We're Project Mono, or we're MK
It's
Oh my
Ultra.
true.
God.
Zzz.
She's a cyborg.
No, if
Um,
only. I've thought of these things before. Don't worry. I'm like, are we all just robots? I've never cut under my flesh. Kind of Deus Ex Machina style. Anyway, keep going. Or Ex
okay,
Machina.
so how do you know? I mean, the data, the information, but the purity level, your intention has a lot to do with it. And I'm always like, wait a second, how come some people, because a lot of people come to me, they're like, oh yeah, I'm a remote viewer. Like, because I always secretly look for people with gifts and abilities. And and then it turns
Secret's
out
out
like they're
now.
not accurate. Like, and so I'm like, how come there's all these people? Like, do they know they're being lied to? Like, there's a lot of people that will channel information too, and I don't see anything. But like because it could help humanity, but some of it I know is like false. But I'm like, oh, that could help uplift a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, so I've thought about that of like, how come others, and it becomes like a purity of heart thing. It really is of so then
Just as
I
we're on the
wonder, like, is
topic,
there something in their DNA or their like where did they do something shitty, like you know what I mean, like
Who knows?
where's the
Mysteries.
system,
Yeah.
so
what
just
There's
as
got to
we're
be some
decides
on the
that?
rules.
topic, and it's one of the contentious things, at least for me. Are you familiar with Bashar, the channel, Daryl Anka?
I've
I mean,
never met him.
he's probably living next door now that I'm thinking about it. No, generally, for many years, I can say I learned a lot. There's a lot of, how should I say, philosophy and understanding that's within what he's delivering. And then I'll just keep it short. For 33 years, he's been preaching almost about health, because of course so many people came to him and said, please, can you take a look, what should I do? And after some point he was like, look, these are the basic guidelines, starting with oxygenation, detoxification, something where I would say, from my now more advanced understanding of health, perfectly accurate. And then the whole crisis came along, and suddenly he's talking about masks, he's talking about all kinds of strange things, where of course also with channeling answers, and this in this case is supposed to be an alien or however astral entity, it has to be contextualized and all of that. But still I was like, how do I get a continuity break from 33 years of perfectly clear and consistent advice on that front? And then suddenly you have this switch, and I was like, what the F happened? Was the connection disrupted?
From what I understand, like you're based on your frequency and your intentions, depends on what you connect to. So if that changed, or and I also have theories too about parasites, about like when something like the hermeticism, the hermetics of that, like as within, as above is within, as within and without. And if you're inundated with a certain amount of parasites, or like that, something's able to enter you, as well as heavy metals. Now, I believe that there's some conjuring that happens. That's why it's so important to cleanse and get rid of the heavy metals, because then it's almost like this, yeah, like this conjuring thing where something's entering. But I'm like, where's the permission and rules to that? Of you know what I'm saying? Of like where so the awareness too of like, I think that's where Solomon was on something, like these like of being able to delegate, to control the demons and
The keys of
with
Solomon you're talking about.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
uh-huh.
I was like, Solomon, your drug dealer? Probably not, because you don't do drugs. I don't know. I just it sounded random. Okay.
I'll be right
I,
back though. I'm gonna use the restroom real quick.
word, do your thing. Or should I say, do what thou wilt? Would that be more appropriate? So, interesting, Raphael. I know you channel. I don't know if you still do it actively. Now that I think about it, you used to do it on YouTube and stuff. That's why you have Act Like You Know, I think. Right? Am I tripping? So how do you look at? I mean, it's what she's even getting into. It's like you can have things that distort the. It's like signal information technology stuff. You can have a pure signal, and then if you have all sorts of kind of reverberation or filters on that, it changes. I mean, if right now, if I was talking through 18 delay pedals and like on overdrive, my message would be very different sounding.
I mean, the traditional view, and I would agree with it, I'd say, is that it's about belief systems. So depending on your belief systems and whether, maybe for some reason you get afraid or something, all of these things, all of these stressors could potentially
Cortisol.
change the quality of the signal.
Yeah.
And most importantly, also what Julia said is, of course, also how your body is doing. This may vary for each individual, but overall, I think it's very relevant because that's like the resonating body you have from
Yeah.
which you can, connect or receive a signal. And if that, of course, is, full of elements which are
Compromised.
not suitable to the
Yeah.
conductivity, then of course the signal quality is, I guess, expected
So Daryl
to be
Anka has
degraded.
toxoplasmosis, is what we're saying. No, I'm kidding.
I really
Stop playing
don't
with the cats,
know.
Daryl.
But in that, I just brought up that example because it was so consistent for such a long time, and I was a bit like, oh, it's kind of great for me. I can kind of graduate from watching that because, just like you said, I can be like, oh, it's channel information. A lot of it is great, very helpful. I would say perception management and reality creation advice is amazing. The whole alien backstory, you can take it or leave it, and this is maybe another topic. Maybe we can get into a little bit because that's getting huge now as well, right? But yeah, coming down to it, just saying, yeah, graduate from that because now
Yeah, look at the data. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, at that, and just by now I can say with so many, unfortunately, I know in certain areas because I did the research and I have the understanding they are saying something that is not accurate or at least not consistent with what I understand it to be. But of course, in your case, it's even more exact, I guess, because you're not just talking about channeling information that may be helpful and let's say 90% correct. We all have our differences, but you're also talking about remote viewing, right? So you're saying that people doing that and they just consistently get stuff wrong, or they're supposed to like find me your keys and they're still not in the backyard, or just to understand what you meant there.
Oh, how people like will be like, "Oh yeah, I got this," and then you try them or if you test them, it's wrong. Like they're
Right.
not like
Be-
it's literally wrong. Where I'm
Right,
like, huh.
because because one thing would be to say like, okay, it's about, let's say, some historical ideas where we could say, okay, there's different narratives or different contextualizations. We could debate about that. But if it's about, all right, can you locate this or that, and it's something that can be presently verified, then it's very obvious if there is a high error rate or something, right? So that's just why I'm asking or wondering if maybe you've met many remote viewers that consistently get it wrong and yeah, whatever, they keep going. I don't know. So
I
They're
have. Well,
muggles. They
just
just
yeah,
want to go to Hogwarts, right? That's what you're saying.
yeah, seriously. Well, I mean, because some of it, that's another thing too. I mean, it could get technical because they could be accurate on some things and then miss the mark on
Sure.
where I'm like, oh, geez, I'll get bummed too because I get very much like, oh, yes,
Emotionally
we could do
invested.
this
Yeah.
together. And, remote influencing is something that not too many people talk about, but how a group of remote viewers were able to change the stock market. And when you come together with other powerful people, you could really change things. And so I'm always like, you know, I would love to get a bunch of powerful people together and like really like do some experiments, right?
Some X-Men shit. Are you actively trying to do that? I mean, you're saying on this DL, you're
Secretly,
always
dude,
trying to
dude, like in the back of my mind, like it's like a dream where I'm like, because I think I was too disappointed by too many people I would come across. I get pumped on, like, yes. And then like, let's join forces. And then I'm like, oh man, like,
we're
no,
not
that
on the
was
wave.
wrong. Or like,
Yeah.
you are actually all about this. Like, you disguised yourself that you were about all this, like, love and like this and that, but you're really just about getting money and you know what I mean? Like on a whole nother get down. So I was continuously bummed. So it was like a dream that I kept inside, just like next to my dream of wanting to create certain Call of Duty maps in real life and like have interactive where you could go and like play with like a group of people, like go and play in
Yeah.
real life.
Like a
That was like
holodeck.
another
Like,
dream of
meet me
mine.
at the
It's like
holodeck.
next to that dream.
Well, Venus has entered Scorpio. We're sharing secrets today. So, uh, don't write those off. In a sense, I mean, I guess with the internet and stuff, it gets tricky because how much do you want to like waste your energy on monkeys that don't matter? That's a weird way to put it, but it's like, I bet if you set up, it's a little like Ex Machina. I don't know if you've seen that film with AI and stuff. It's pretty cool. But basically, the guy gets the gig because he did a like whatever. There's a company on the website. They're like, whoever can figure this out, you're gonna get you get to meet Willy Wonka of AI or whatever. I imagine if you set up, you don't have to buy a domain and all this shit. But just an idea. It's like set up some things where you could see people's results, and if you like, let them come to you through grids of initiation. If you want to put this, like, okay, if they get 5 out of 6, they're cool. See what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, I
instead of,
like that.
well, just an idea. Anyway, I was looking at all these comments and I got sidetracked. So people are saying diet is key. I'm a vegan. Are you doing anything crazy for your diet? Are you like a breatharian or anything ratchet?
But
I don't know.
you're
I
like
laugh at
a
that kind of stuff. Yeah, I was like,
breatharian, right?
I need.
I'm a pescatarian. If it was good enough for
Okay.
Jesus, it was good enough for me.
Yeah, that's what's up. Okay, so but you're when you're dealing with heavy metal, I mean, what's your, how would I put it? Is there some kind of secret to your regimen, like where you're like, oh my gosh, every
Yeah, I
day,
do. I
yeah.
do. I do a parasite cleanse every 6 months, and I do
What does that entail? Like lemon juice
like
and honey, or what are you doing?
no, there's different. Okay, so I'll do like warm wood and green black walnut tincture
Okay.
and garlic cloves and there's another one, not wormwood, but that I combined with it, and then you do 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off, and then 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and you do that for 90 days, and, to cleanse all of it, and then, I do a liver flush, and then sometimes I'll do the heavy metal. Now you gotta be careful with, like, zeolite is amazing, but then it's, like, really persnickety, or you gotta be persnickety to get, like, the right zeolite, and there's all this but that is profound, like, the zeolite of getting the heavy metals out, but the MMS, like, there's a certain MMS protocols to help get out the heavy metals, like, especially the people that had mercury fillings, and
Hmm.
there's, like, a whole long process of getting those
They're
out, and it
they're in the deep end of the metal toxicity. I just take chlorelina spirulina or chlorella spirulina kind of pill combos. Somebody the other day was like, "Oh, you can't take them to." There's so much. I'm at a point where it's like we've got so much information and then so many opinions on the information that it's hard for me to wade through it all. And in a sense, we have to kind of go to our inner truth, which is, it seems like you've got a strong version of that. But even like Melissa was asking, and other people are curious, it's like, how do we, in the Bible, it's like test the spirits. How do we discern things given that we're all basically blind people leading the blind? It's crazy. So when it comes to things like diet, like I never push veganism on anybody. I don't give a shit. I happened to see a PETA video on acid after being a pescatarian for a hot minute. I was just like, I can't do this. So it's tricky because I on the one hand, I know you don't want to like do this for a living, clearly, but you should definitely fuck with recording your protocols and seeing if others want to join you on that, and if it actually lets them access the vibe that you're trying to create.
ooh,
It
that's a
might,
good idea.
sometimes I have them. It's
Not only
shocking, I
that,
know.
but like, when people so I don't have to, so I could direct them to that as well, like, when they come to me, I could be like, "Oh, hey, like, here's the
Actually,
link, like, this is what you should do."
you just open an online class, which can be, either very conveniently, nicely priced for friends, or incredibly and also justifiably overpriced for anyone else, however you want to do it. And then you just have students in any way you see fit, and then you would obviously see who is getting with the vibe and who, is getting results.
I
Especially
started
if they're really not out there, maybe it can be part of your task to assist them
Find
in
the others.
developing it. Maybe,
Yeah. Oh, I started what
maybe.
I did with, I started, hypnosis regression, because I think doing readings for people, like, I was so cautious about it, and then what happens when it was so draining to experience all these, like, so much sexual traumas would come up, and like darkness, and I would be like experiencing, I'm like, what's going, I don't want to absorb that, like, I want to teach them, I want to be able to facilitate a way they could receive the information. So that's where hypnosis regression was huge for me, because I was like, sweet, I am amazing in those theta brainwaves. Like, that's my realm. That's my specialty. I will help you. And working with me is like, I'm bringing what my energy, whatever works with me, to the table.
Hmm.
So I facilitate taking them into those brainwaves and them receiving that information. So that was huge for me, of like, yes, like, now I can help you do it.
Yeah, you don't want to be the middleman of like weird juju, I guess. It's like,
Yeah,
why?
no,
I'm covered in your
exactly.
karma, ugh, or whatever. Um, People are saying something about 90 Day Fiance parasite exorcism version. Like it sounds like you're you have, because your Saturn is conjunct your sun, like you are a teacher. Like whether you like it or not, you're a way shower for sure. Now, how involved, like Dumbledore wasn't making out with every student or whatever. So it's like you don't have to be that involved at certain levels with the people you find, but I think you could probably just, like I was saying, just show people what you're doing and then see if they kind of hit let them self-guide, and then if they, it's kind of like Doctor Strange. It's like if they knock on the door enough, I guess at some point you'll like let them in. Damn it, I was just thinking something and I totally spaced. Oh, hypnosis. Are you talking about like Dolores Cannon kind of regression
Yes.
stuff? Okay,
Yes.
so how did you get into that?
Well, I came across it like a little bit after my vision started amplifying, but I didn't know how to feel about it because I was like, who are they talking to? You know what I mean? Like what is this?
Mhm.
Of are you opening themselves up for something to enter them like through this? So I was a little resistant to it at first, of like
Mhm.
I didn't fully understand. And then um with diving down and investigating it more, I was like, "Oh, wow, this is really profound." I mean, she would hear people's backs crack during the session and like asking for assistance and receiving the miraculous healings from people like in the medical community, like doctors and people that are trained really not to believe in that stuff. And they're coming in for sessions and getting like remarkable healings.
Mm.
And and our minds are so powerful. And I was always really drawn to the psychic surgeons and the things that they perform that's like kind of big in like Thailand, like over there. And
I've never heard of this.
oh my gosh, psychic surgeons.
There's a
Well,
few videos. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
And a lot of
do you
it's
mean like
parasite too, right?
okay?
Rev?
I guess, I mean, all I could discern from the picture, I mean, maybe parasites too, I guess, but I could only discern like black sludge somehow, emerging. And yeah, there's interesting things. Yeah. And there it's almost like, I guess, common or standard to know that that's a thing. Whereas here people would, yeah, make a ruckus.
Seriously. And then you get into the whole like exorcism thing and it seems to have a lot to do with darker, like a black goo and then like a darker spirit. So, I actually did a show, it's called Dark Star. The story's kinda hard to follow. He's very advanced but, he speaks of somebody that was like that grew up down like we were all talking about, you can live in an area and something could be right by you that's amazing and you don't even know it. I didn't know growing up, but down the street from where I grew up, there was this guy and he had the ability to, touch things and heal things.
Hmm.
So he would sneak into the ICU at the hospital. Like you could see this hospital like from like I lived on a hill, it overlooked that hospital.
The Santa
He would
Claus of healing. It's just like down the chimney I go. Click.
he would yes, exactly. And he would sneak into the kids ICU and heal them. And so he actually when he was like 30, he got diagnosed with I think like either 16 or 18 different cancers, which is interesting because the all the people he healed, like it was like a total of 16 or 18 different cancers. So
So
he
like jump from
absorbed it.
them to him. Yeah. Okay.
So he absorbed it and he didn't know how to release it, but also the authorization in that of like what's authorized. Did he have permission to do that? And so there's actually a shrine for him in the town and they give flowers and stuff in the city. And a lot of people are like, who is this person? And but what's interesting is so the guy that I was interviewing, he grew up with him and he had gifts and abilities. Like they all were very gifted and they all had abilities. And they were walking to go to the liquor store and this guy came out of a jewelry store. It was an Indian. He said the name of the American Indian tribe that you don't really hear of this one very often. But he had said he walked up to the kid, the guy that ended up going around healing people. And he said, we've been waiting for you for over 400 years. And so he took them, and they didn't see him for like a couple years. He came back, and so they trained him. But I don't know, like the permission and authorization. But I wanted people. The reason why I did a show on it is because I wanted people. You don't know, you don't hear about that. You don't. And so this guy was actually in the room when he had come in. They had somebody that was like almost like dying, like septic. He was turning green. He was super sick. He came in. He put his hand out, he sang a song, and then he said it smelled like burnt, disgusting skin, and then the guy ran into the bathroom, started vomiting this dark liquid. I'm like, "Was it thick?" He's like, "No, it was like imagine like Gatorade, but like black," you know? So that thing that we're seeing of the pattern of this dark
Hyper
goo or
detoxing.
substance, and then
Yeah.
it's coming out and some kind of darker spirit flying away, like What is that?
I haven't done ayahuasca, neither have you, probably because you say you don't fuck with even acid and stuff. But I
I want
read
to
a.
do Cambo. I want to do Cambo so bad. Like maybe
That's not a psychedelic.
Oh, it's
I
not
think no, it's just it
toad
activates
venom.
peptides. Like you're
Hmm.
not tripping. It just kind of like flushes your system. I mean, do a little
Oh,
research on it. But it's there's a girl who's actually signed up. I haven't signed her up. She's not on the docket yet, Raphael. But basically, she does Cambo and other stuff. I think she sells fulvic acid and all sorts of whatever stuff like that. And she was like, if you need some Cambo hookup, let me know. And I was like, noted. I'm not too keen on like whatever. I think they burn you and then put it on there. It's like I don't want to I'm not a masochist like that. So but I was talking about psychedelics, blah blah. She's like, actually, that's not psychedelic. It activates peptides, whatever. So it might be in your wheelhouse of you might have a
I'm
permission
like,
slip for
hey,
that or whatever.
you said hallucinogenics. This doesn't count. That could be a loophole.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think it's almost like I mean, I can't speak upon it, so do some research for yourself. But I don't think you're not sitting there tripping. I think what happens is all of a sudden it activates certain chemical releases in your body, and then you just basically purge. But not like in the same way. Anyway, I'll say this briefly. I was saying about ayahuasca, why I even interrupted you at all. There's I think on if you Google to hell and back or something like that, there was a National Geographic atheist writer back in the day who went to Peru basically and did a bunch of ayahuasca, had all these crazy visions and stuff, and she was puking up black liquid into a bucket. Like she thought it was snakes, and then she
Hmm.
looks and it's like, oh my gosh, it's snake. So it seems like and it almost reminds me back in the day, like maybe 2014-ish, around then, not that far back in the day. There was a whole conspiracy of the black goo. I don't remember if you remember. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Like
Hmm.
people like, oh, it's this. I don't remember if it was spiritual or more mechanical. Like it's AI nanotech, and if it gets in you, you're fucked. Blah blah blah.
Are
Rafa,
you
do you remember this?
familiar with the presentations by Harald Kautzweller, a German guy? Because he was the one who kind of made the whole black goo idea big, and he also related it to AI. So
Yeah,
I'll
that's what
look
I
that
And it
said.
up
seems
if
to be what
yeah.
it was a bunch of it was found beneath the pyramid, and you don't hear about that very much. Like it was beneath, and so it's like, ooh, that has a whole nother layer to it. But they say that it's been what keeps conquering these worlds, like it overtakes it, and that's
What the fuck? What's the trip we're on, guys? Like we're all like, oh, let's just be Care Bears, right, Raphael? All is one. It's great, and it's like actually there's arconic fucking
When
juice
was I
down
saying
below.
that, Tim?
I don't know.
You're always giving
I
me
patronized you.
attributions and statements I'm not
I
making.
know I'm the worst. I draw caricatures quickly, and everyone's like, "That's not what
Yeah,
I look
yeah,
like."
exactly. Bad
And it's like,
caricatures. Yeah,
yeah,
misleading.
Libra's pissed. Watch out. The justice scales have been tipped. I'm going to get in trouble. So, we were talking about hypnosis. I'm curious when you do these. I've only done a regression once, and I mean, I was basically like, all right, I'll try this out, and I was sober, and I kind of did it. Got into like a self hypnosis state, I guess, deep theta state or whatever is going on, and it felt like it doesn't really matter what the experience. I was kind of like in a Celtic druid situation. I was just like, whoa, this felt too real. Like it felt like I was actually embodied or something. Like I was like there and I didn't have a wherewithal for that. So when you're doing hypnosis, how do you prepare people for that? Like, what is the modeling in your, how?
that's it takes like it's a long process. Like it takes like 4 or 5 hours. Like so that's
Yeah,
why I'm like, okay, you need to schedule out like, don't be in a hurry when you do it. Like
right.
schedule block out a whole day for me. So you do a lot of talking. You do like an interview for like a couple hours,
Okay.
and then you're under for like 2 hours. So it's at least 4 hours. And so some people like most people they get there, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
they get into that state. A lot of engineers are more resistant to like
Logical mind wants to keep things in order. I get it. It's like, don't go into the
dude,
pyramid.
I owe you a session. Like I would love to see what comes up with you, especially with with the experiences you have and the mind that you have. I would be so fascinated. I
I will
would
give
love
you access, Julia.
good.
If we're gonna hang out ever, I'll be like, all right, look, I don't smoke weed anymore, and you sure as fuck aren't tripping. So like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna open my filing cabinet and see what the fuck. I was a pirate in the past life or whatever the hell.
I
I
know
don't
it
even know how
sounds
I
so
feel.
perverted when I'm like, come over to my office. I'll put you to sleep.
That does sound when you put it when you caveat with this sounds bad, then I thought it worse. But No, I'm just realizing. Do you do this as a living? Like, is this a
Mhm,
hustle for you?
mhm.
I just know you as Andreas's friend. Like, I don't realize what you do. I mean, I'm horrible about this. Everyone on here is like, "Oh, it's Julia. She's cool." So it's like, "Oh, I didn't realize you are doing this." So word, if we ever hang out, we'll totally do that. But all right. So it's a huge kind of preparatory thing. But how long is it? It makes me think of like Contact with like that film with I forget her name now. Whatever.
Jodie
I
Foster.
think, yeah,
Jodie
Jodie
Foster, thank you.
Foster.
Yeah, I was like, I'm Julia Roberts. That's not it. That is definitely not it. So, Jodie Foster, yeah, I mean, there was a whole lot of preparation just to get to that nanosecond of being in Vega, the other star system or whatever's going on. So, you're saying it's kind of a huge kind of front end not paperwork, but like preparatory kind of get in the zone. How long in the space of liminality or in the in the zone are you actually with
When
them?
I
Does
go
that
into
make
a
sense?
trance, when I do a remote viewing, or are you talking about hypnosis regression?
Hypnosis, but we could cover them all. Like if going to let's put it this way, being on the drop of the Tower of Terror
Like
is
an
like
hour and a half. Like an hour and
that's
a
a long
half
time.
to be under.
Yeah. Oh well, I
We'll
don't
just
mean time is whatever at that point, but I was thinking it would be kind of quick, but I guess
no.
not. I
Uh-uh.
mean, that's what you're saying. It's a long thing, but an hour and a half, in that space probably feels like an eternity. I imagine.
And a lot of people are like, "Oh, wait," like, they have no, like, guessing of, like, "How long do you think you've been down?" Like, they're always so off, and and then a lot of people will be really thirsty, like, really, really thirsty and exhausted right
Huh.
after. So it's like you're gonna wanna eat a lot of food and go to sleep and drink a lot of water and rest. And then
Interesting.
you always have the recording so you could play it back. You could be like, "Oh, wow," and each time you hear it, you're walking away with something different. So but you're accessing, like, your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is so much more powerful than your conscious mind. Like, that's where the gold
I was
lies,
lost.
right?
My internet's fucked up. Sorry. I heard that's where the gold lies, and then I'm back. So we can keep talking for a couple minutes. If you want to start winding it down, we can too. Well, maybe dude, you're friends with Andreas. I mean, I think I'm hanging out with him on the show tomorrow on Naropa. I don't know what you're up to. Maybe you should come on here and geek out with us there. But we got to get you back on either way and talk maybe more specifically because I'm kind of drive buying stuff. What haven't we talked? Like you do conferences. What conferences are you speaking to? UFO stuff.
Um,
I feel I
yes.
saw something like that. Yeah. Okay. So that's not
Yeah.
hypnosis
I got the
conferences.
yeah,
Yeah.
the, alien event, there's one in April that's coming up, that's gonna be so, yeah, come on down if you're in the area, that would be awesome. Come meet me and talk to me, and
Get my
so,
filing cabinet ripped through. It's like, haha, you're a Swiss guard, actually, or for the Pope. That's why you were freaking out. You're home or whatever. So yeah, you do circuits or whatever conferences. Uh, what are some of the topics that you address there? I mean, when you're,
I
I mean,
did
they're
I
go
did
ahead.
a presentation about, the Hollow Earth show, the Inner Earth show, like, how that happened was, like, supernatural. The way
Tell
it
us.
happened, everything that we could get into another time, but,
Okay.
and so there was so much information to organize of how of everything that occurred that I did presentation on that because the remote viewing results of what I came across was pretty dark. So, I'm struggling too with that of, like, having to drive to this show to go on national television and talk
Under
about,
a
like,
cloud. You're like,
crazy things, like, dark things that you came across that, like, humanity is not even ready to talk about really.
they're
But,
extracting adrenochrome. I saw it. That kind of thing? Or what were you I mean,
kind
tell me
I mean,
you
yeah,
got my
kind
interest
of.
piqued. Okay. It's weird or when you say dark, see,
Yeah.
this is what is dark to you? I mean, I'd be like,
Well,
"Oh, you
nefarious I
saw."
mean, when you come across, like, a lab and, like, there's clones and they're taking blood and they're utilizing it and mixing it with things that they need, to feel a certain way, like, to me, that's, like, not it's dark, it's a darker conversation,
Yeah, totally.
it's a nefarious thing.
I just saw, ironically, on, Instagram, somebody had taken DNA of a shark and DNA of a worm, and there's, like, a worm shark now. I mean, it's clearly I mean, it's just like a thing on the land, but it's
Mhm.
related to I'm not a biologist, so I don't know how chimera kind of experiments go, but when you're talking about the dark side of science, it's like, I have a feeling that there's very little we're aware of. Not to be hyper paranoid, but it's like there's definitely people fucking around and trying to find out, like Stranger Things style, all the time. X Men. I mean, this is where this stuff is coming from. I don't think it's false. I think they're just kind of slow releasing information to get us like kind of socially accustomed to the fact that there's elements of reality that are nefarious, as we would put it, and like less jovial. We can totally, next time we come on, we'll do something specific, like I don't know, hypnosis and Artha. By then, I mean, shit, what is it, November? It's December. Shit, what am I talking about? There's a chance I'll be in SoCal at some point. Maybe I'll fly to Vienna from LA or something like that. But is there anything, I mean, we've talked about a lot and maybe not as much about the professional side of things as I would have hoped, but we're fine. We're kind of getting up to the present moment of your life now. So next time we have you on, we're like, what are you doing? Talk about this shit. What haven't we talked about that you would want to, or anything like that? I know that's rather loose. It's like, hey,
Like, oh,
date's
hey,
over. You want to
anything
make
else?
out? Like, I'm dropping you off at home. Whatever you want to do. So it's like, is there anything that you wanted to, I mean, you got something in April. Tell us
Yeah,
you
in
can plug things.
April,
Go for
the
it.
alien event, you could go to book a session or to contact me, or even
Here
if
we
you
go.
want
Here
me,
we go.
yeah, to that would be juliakamman.com, juliakamman.com. That's my website, and I just launched my YouTube channel like a few weeks ago.
Is
So
Kamman your last name?
no, Kamman's my middle name. In
Okay, but
fact, my
JK is
last
my
name I
initials.
didn't
What?
my last name, like, it was interesting because my dad had a very successful bakery, and the brothers warred over the bakery, right? And it became
Typical.
like a battle of egos, and then they fought and they spent millions fighting over it. My dad lost it, and then now his brother's wife owns it. But before she got it, and my dad was the one that came up with all the formulas, right? And
Sure.
the brother is the one that's just sold it. So my dad formulated all these recipes, and but he went and like registered the last name Galasso,
Mhm.
like, and made it to where my dad couldn't open up a business with his own name. And so I remember, so for me, I was like, hey man, I don't need Galasso. Like, I'll use my first and my middle name. Maybe there's something to be told about that, but yeah, that's why I didn't use it.
Word. Well, I was just like, I just realized. I mean, it's obvious. JK, Jim Kincaid, Julia.
Oh,
Yes, I was like,
JK.
yeah, JK, we're just kidding. We're just joshing around. In any event, you're cool as fuck. I figured you would be. And given that we've never interacted and stuff, I'm appreciative of the fact that you went on a limb here and came out and hung out with us. I should have probably been a little more succinct and written some things down. That's just not how I roll. But now that I'm aware that you're a professional, like hypnotist and all this stuff, I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I could check out your shit more like profoundly. Raphael, you got any parting thoughts?
No, just that it was awesome. I loved it. Amazing
He-
stories, and it's only a start. So that's it.
He's the
And
caterpillar.
there's not,
He's not
well,
enthusiastic, maybe, but he's
no.
happy.
The
Trust me.
thing is always, what do you want me to do at the end? Like, oh, words of
Greek,
wisdom. I'm like, I'm sorry. By now, everything's been put on the record. No.
right?
Thank you
The
very much,
Akashic
Julia.
record.
It's really
Thank
amazing
you.
stories and many more details. Hopefully, we can get into on some kind of a format, either here or somewhere else.
Yeah, when you guys
Uh,
hit me up whenever, I'm always down. I'll always be there when you call.
Oh, that's a bold statement, but noted. I will say I've been not using tea leaves to divine or whatever, but Yogi Tea. I'm not sponsored by them. I should hit them up and be like, I fucking use your tea, everything. Give me free tea. But basically, they've got these little quotes on them, and today says, "Compassion is the constant act of giving oneself to others." And as two Libras here, I'm sure you guys are like, yes, it's the other. I love balance of life and all this stuff. I don't know. I don't want to patronize y'all, but yes, Libras get that sentiment very naturally. So, Julia, always a pleasure. You're totally Team Rabbit Hole. We're gonna have probably some off-air conversations because I'm just like, you've got stories I'm sure you don't want to talk about. I could tell you're like, what can I say? And it's like, well,
Mhm.
sometimes there's layers here. So on air, cool, off air, otherwise. But Raphael, you gotta come come to the West Coast. There's more reasons now.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, come
exactly.
out here. Come to Laguna.
You'll
We
get
should have a
sunburned.
meetup.
I promise you. I don't know. He has such fair skin. All right, guys, it's been a pleasure. Find the others. Look, guys, they're everywhere. Fucking, we're all X-Men out here, and we just have to kind of raise our hands and say, yes, I have these weird gifts, and own it. So, Julia, you're a testament to owning what one might say are, tricky gifts, and you're doing it with grace and style. So, more props to you on that front. Thanks for giving us your time and energy. Guys, find the fucking others.
Thanks so much, Julia.
Thank
Thanks everyone
you.
for listening.
Thank you.